Good evening. We are now calling for the Board of Education meeting to start today. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Liz, can you please call the roll?
Vice President Robinson. Vice President Bowens.
Yes.
Secretary Triplett. Treasurer Creighton. Here. Trustee Rocket Martin.
Present.
Trustee Gavin.
Present.
Trustee Gould. Quorum's been established.
Okay, thank you. And can I have an approval of the agenda, please?
Vice President Bowen,
You may speak.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the agenda with a few modifications.
And what are those modifications, please?
Our admin is requesting a consent agenda for the leases under student services. Section 5. And we have discussed these things a few times, and Dr. Buds feels comfortable making a recommendation to the board, and the finance committee has already talked about it. And so we're hoping to do a consent agenda, and we could group them all together and he could go over them, and then we could ask questions.
Okay. Thank you. Is there?
There was also a request to do a consent agenda under human resources. However, we might need to divide one, because I do have a conflict of interest under
H1?
No, I think it's H2. So I would like to make a motion that we approve the agenda with the consent agenda under the 3 lease renewals. And then also, I would like to do a consent under H1, and then remove Vanshika Bullocks and do a separate staff report under H2.
4? No.
So H2 could move to H4, or it could be like it. Okay. So is that clear? Do I need to repeat that?
I can't hear you down.
Can you speak louder in the mic? Sorry.
My apologies. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the following modifications. Student services, under student services, the 3 lease agreements to be a consent agenda, which is staff report SS1 through SS3. And also under human resources, number 7, staff report H1 as a consent agenda. Staff report, actually it's already a consent agenda. So I'm sorry, under H2, yeah, so actually that's fine. So we can leave it as is and just do a consent agenda for SS1 through SS3. My apologies.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion?
Chair Bowens,
It's Vice President Bowens, and go ahead.
I think I said it right. My question is, I'm wondering why we don't have a closed session so that we can get an update on our legal matter. I'm wondering if we can add that so that we can get an update on the legal matter that we discussed before.
I will give that to Superintendent Butts.
We're waiting on an update from our attorneys before we do a closed session on that. They have received the information that they've requested. Also, the other information that was requested from the board from my office to proceed with has been submitted. So we're waiting on some additional information before we go back into closed session.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question is the item regarding the board letter for debt forgiveness. I would like to add that we vote on the resolution that's before us. if we can add that.
Yeah.
You know, I thank you for your comment on that or your recommendation. I would advise us as a board not to vote on that because we just got the resolution, nor have we seen the letter from the attorney. And we do not have a full quorum here.
Vice President Bowens.
I would like to add it if possible, and then we
Go
can
ahead.
vote on it.
Dr. Butts and then Treasurer Creighton.
One thing, trustee Gavin, when I sent that out, our attorneys are asking for more information for us to provide to that resolution. If we could hold off until the next scheduled meeting for this month to vote on it, so we can make sure that we give him all the pertinent information that is being asked.
I
Treasurer
don't know
Creighton,
what other
Vice
information. they
President
need.
Bowens.
Go ahead.
So according to the email that we received, we will, I agree with Ms. Gavin, it should be added to the agenda as a discussion topic, if anything. It is not in its complete form, and so, I don't think it's ready to actually do a vote, but I'm very proud that we did get a response, and I want to thank Ms. Gavin for definitely bringing that to the forefront. We do have a draft, but it is not complete, and so if it's a discussion, I think we can add whatever recommendations we might have to send back to the attorney, so that when we receive it back, it can definitely be on the agenda for our September 20th meeting that we have coming up. So I definitely agree that this is something that we need to move expeditiously on. Unfortunately, it is a draft and it's not prepared for a board vote tonight.
It's been
Thank you.
5 months.
It is also on the board for discussion, Treasurer Creighton.
Oh,
It's
is
on
it?
the agenda, I'm sorry, for discussion.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, if there's not been any other changes, Liz, you do have those?
We didn't get a support.
Oh, sorry. Is there support for the consent agenda item changes with the student support service being a consent? And that would be the modification of the change of the agenda, sorry. I would support. Ms. Marquette, or do you guys support the changes to the agenda?
Yeah, with the discussion of the.
Yes, it's already, that's
It's
already,
already on there, yes.
so what we're voting on is the motion made by Treasurer Creighton that we move the support services, instead of just voting on those separately, we'll vote on those all together.
Vote
And
on
it's
it.
been seconded by Trustee Rocket Martin.
Seconded by Rob.
Are we? So I have a question.
Yes, Trustee
If-
Gavin?
If we vote for this to be on a consent agreement, does that mean we will not be able to discuss these items?
You would still be able to discuss it. We just would not go through one by one.
At this time,
That's SS1, SS2, and SS3.
Mr. Vice President,
Yes, Treasurer.
I would like to remove my motion and make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Okay, Treasurer Creighton is removing her agenda, her motion to amend the agenda. So can I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I move that the agenda be used as is.
Trustee Creighton put a motion, I'm sorry. Trustee Rocket approves the changes. Well, sorry, she approves the motion as is, sorry.
I second.
She
Oh,
seconded.
Yeah,
Can you talk into the microphone?
I second.
Okay,
Let me call
So-
them.
yes, can you call the roll?
Vice President Bowens.
Yes.
Treasurer Creighton.
Yes.
Trustee Rocket Martin.
Yes,
Trustee Gavin.
Yes.
Okay, we have the approval of the agenda done. Let's do the review of board norms. The review of the Benton Harbor Area School Board of Education norms is we will treat each other with respect. We will listen to learn. We will refrain from side conversations. We will use our time wisely, starting and ending our meetings on time. We will challenge ideas, not people. We will ask questions when in doubt. There will be no surprises at the board table. We will practice the 7 norms of collaboration. Our norms of collaboration are pausing, paraphrasing, posing questions, putting ideas on the table, providing data, paying attention to self and others, and presuming positive attentions. Thank you. The next, we will have public comment on agenda items only. Is there anyone that would like to comment on the agenda items for the agenda today? Hearing none, we will proceed. Pardon me? It's right there. Okay, being that there is no public comment on the agenda items, we will next move to approval of the meeting minutes.
Vice President Bowens,
Yes,
can we give our audience member a second to review the agenda to make sure that she doesn't have any questions? Okay,
sorry.
thank you.
Approval of the meeting minutes, we'll be approving the regular meeting minutes from August 8th, August 15th, in the closed session of August 15th, August 29th, and August 29th closed session.
At this time, I
Sorry.
would like to make a motion to approve. I think there's a revision to the minutes.
So I was hoping not have a closed session. Like, okay, so we're looking at 8/15 for the special meeting 8/29, and closed session 8/29 for 22.
So let me rephrase that for public.
I'll make the
record.
motion.
Okay,
At this time, I would like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from regular meeting August 8th, 2023, August 15th, 2023, special meeting August 29th, 2023, and closed session 1, August 29th, 2023. I do see also closed session 2, August 29th, 2023. So we have 5 of 6 meeting minutes in our packets. At first glance, I do see that Molly's name is spelled wrong. Besides that, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the aforementioned meetings.
I second the motion.
it has been put down by a motion has been presented by trustee Creighton, treasurer Creighton, and it's been seconded by trustee Rocket, sorry. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, can I recall for the vote, please, Liz?
Vice President Bowens,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Yes.
trustee Rocket Martin,
Yes.
trustee Gabb,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, thank you. That next will now lead us to board business. Board business, I'm sorry, they changed it. I forgot we voted to change the agenda around. Board business, and this will be, comments will be for 2 minutes per trustee per topic. And the topic is our board letter for debt forgiveness. Discussion. Treasurer
So,
Creighton?
yes, thank you so much. So again, a few months ago, Ms. Gavin came before us and asked to, one thing that Ms. Gavin has been fighting for is a fresh start. And she's really excited about this, and I'm excited that is actually coming to the table, and we are very close to hopefully getting our debt forgiven. So I'm very grateful for that. And so as a finance committee, we definitely want to send a letter in support of this. And so this is our first draft that was drafted by our attorneys. If you guys could take a few moments to actually look at the letter and to see at first glance if there's anything that you would like added or taken away. I would say just a few seconds to kind of peruse it. And then we can make those changes and take it before our committee and then go ahead and bring it back for a board vote, hopefully on September 20th.
With all due respect, don't you think we need more time?
No.
Is there any questions or comments?
I want to thank trustee Creighton for bringing this up. Our school district has been in, grave danger for several years of being shut down. And we identified, several years ago, the previous school board voted to support this initiative of requesting that our debt be forgiven, understanding all of the damaging policies that led to the debt that we are in. We've had over 12,000 signatures. This has been a unifying issue. This is not something that our board should be dragging its feet on. We, most of the board members stood up excited about receiving $300,000 from the Benton Harbor Education Foundation. And we have the power to position ourselves to relieve ourselves of $12 million. And we're dragging our feet. This is something that everybody on the school board should be abreast of. And this is something that the attorney, they've written a resolution several years ago in support of this. This is just an updated resolution saying that we would like to have the debt forgiven. We have voted yes on things that cost us money. This is actually positioning ourselves to have about $500,000 to $600,000 extra a year so that we can pay our teachers better, have smaller classrooms, just position ourselves better. And so this request was made over 5 months ago. I don't know what else we need to think about. Our lawyers wrote this document. They have our best interests at heart. We've had several months to think about it. And yet again, here we are dragging our feet when really we could have made this letter available in public to the state of Michigan before they voted on the budget in June or July. They've already voted on the budget and we still have not made a statement as a board of education. And that concerns me.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment?
My comment is that I thank you, Ms. Gavin, for your feedback. Again, the attorneys provided this letter. It's a great draft. If there are no additional comments, there were a few things that he wanted to fact check. And if you guys don't see anything, I could definitely make the recommendation to him that it is finalized and be ready to be on the agenda at our September 20th special board meeting.
Treasurer Creighton, as you being the chairman of the of the finances, I guess, are we signing a letter or are we doing a proclamation, a resolution?
Okay, so thank you for your question. So we're making, we have created a draft resolution. As a board, we would do a board vote and then let the receiver see that the board, hopefully in its majority, will support this fresh start resolution and ask for debt forgiveness. That'll be the resolution if no one has any other feedback with the language that is printed.
Thank you.
Vice President Bowen, I also would like to see a place on here where we all can sign. So that we all can show that we are indeed for this, and not just a few, but that the entire board has a chance to sign it. And that I agree with Treasurer Creighton that if we could have it ready for our next board meeting, that would give us a chance. This is our first time seeing this letter. So if we give us a chance to look it over, read it through, and be ready to vote on it, you know, and also that'll give our attorneys a chance to do what they need to do so that we don't make a shipwreck. We want to be careful at everything that we do. We want to make sure all our ducks are in a row, and we can go ahead and sign it and get it to the state of Michigan.
Thank you. I'm gonna refer that to Dr. Butts.
Thank you, Vice President Bowens. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Rocket Martin, I can make that recommendation to the attorney so that we can have it ready to be signed on our September 20th special board meeting. I also like to make a special mention, Ms. Liz, if you can add it to the notes that the mayor entered the meeting, the Board of Education meeting at 5:46 p.m. this afternoon.
Okay.
I didn't hear you.
I also want to make a special mention that the mayor entered the Board of Education meeting at 5:46 p.m. this evening.
Is there anyone else before I comment on the debt forgiveness? Everybody else has spoken. My recommendation would be that we also call a meeting with our state representative who we elected that represents us. Because from speaking with his staff today on another project, they advised me that it was going to be in the upcoming October budget that they will be signing. So I guess us as a board, who's this letter going to? Is it going to the state superintendent, the governor's office, our state rep? And can we request in here? I see where if they need further assistance, but I guess we're being too vague with that. Let's call for a meeting with our state.
And Vice President Bowens,
Yes,
do you have any recommendations on who the letter should go to?
I would say it should go to Michigan Department of Education, Michigan Department of Treasury, our state representative, Bearing Risa, and the governor's office, sorry.
Thank you. So I would definitely include this and share this with the president so that she can pass it on to the attorneys. I think what we were hoping to do, and this was mentioned and discussed a little bit in one of our finance meetings, and I think Ms. Gavin was present. We definitely want to make this a big deal in a big press release. And so I think once we have the resolution, then we can make a big press release, and Dr. Buss will definitely be the face of that. And so he can definitely take good notes and just make it big and send it out to every state agency that he can possibly send it to, hopefully if it is passed on the 20th of September.
Thank you.
No problem.
So with that, is there anything else, Treasurer Creighton, on the debt forgiveness?
Nope, I'm ready to do my finance report.
Okay, and that leads us, since we're done with the discussion of that, that leads us to our finance report, and we will go with Chair Creighton.
Thank you. Thank you all. So we had the opportunity to meet as a finance committee last week, Wednesday. Want to first thank all of you for being so gracious to approve our new CFO, Ms. Molly Vincent. She is sitting in her spot. She officially started this week. Really excited to welcome her here. She has been in the area for quite some time and has a lot of experience in finance, and this is her first opportunity to be the CFO. However, she does have a lengthy experience in accounting, so we're really excited about this and we wish her well. At our meeting, we talked about a lot of things, and one major thing, if you notice, I did give you my committee report. I don't want to steal her shine because this is her first meeting. So we're going to give her the opportunity during her time to actually go through the reports. But what I would like to call the most attention to is the format in which we plan to deliver reports in the future, starting today. So in our meeting, we talked about baseline expectations for reporting. Since this is her first time, kind of like the norm, we developed a new norm. And just kind of talked about the expectations at the table. And I know in the past, for the last several months, I've been pretty much doing the reports because we didn't have a permanent CFO. But now that we do have one, I'm going to actually take several steps back and allow her to do what she does. And so I just want to give give a little attention to what you can expect. We will have a financial summary. We'll have a budget to actual report. And then also a budget to actual detail report. We'll have a vendor report, year to date revenue comparison. And so basically that's the one that shows the percentages. So let's say we're 10% through the year. So it'll show like how close we are to the budget versus what we actually budgeted. Really excited to even be able to say budget, to be in the green and not the red. To be in the green and not the red, to actually not have to rob Peter, to pay Paul, to be in a good position. So I'm really excited about that. Also, and so you can read throughout. And so these are all of the things that she'll go over. And so a new thing that we're going to try to do and keep up with is have separated the recommendations for the board to actually approve. And so you'll notice that is at the bottom of my report so that you can see the things that we've actually talked about in finance. And I think that's setting the standard pretty high, because in the past, we've allowed things to skip committee sometimes if we are in a rush, but we want you to see actually the things that we've talked about. And so it'll be an accountability measure so that those last minute things that are sliding in, you'll know that finance did not discuss those things. And so that'll be something new. And then also, we want you to know that we are reviewing financial procedures as we get our credit cards and get them implemented. We're also looking at the accounts payable process and some of the activity funds and just a lot of the smaller funds that are not going unnoticed, but you know, we're starting big. And so we have those things together. Next step, we're looking at the smaller funds, fundraising, things like that. And then also working on the accounts payable process so that when furniture, books, whatever needs to be ordered, they'll be clear on how to do it. And so that concludes my reports, and I welcome any questions that you guys may have.
Trustee Creighton,
Yes, ma'am.
Treasurer Creighton. My question is about Munitrex. Do we have kind of a date of when? I know that transparency and reporting is a big thing in the community. It's a thing that everybody wants. Do we have a projected date as to when all of this information will be available and updated on Munitrex so that we can look at this information real time?
Thank you. Yep. So Munitrex is the transparency reporting that'll be available to the public. So if there's anything or any questions that you have about our numbers, our budget, our projections, it'll be available. And so with Ms. Vincent starting this week, we did talk about this in our meeting, and so she'll give an update on that. But we did learn something new, that's not actually something that is reported monthly or daily. It's actually like the year, the past year. And so those numbers have been sent off. And so she'll give an update on that during her report. But thank you so much for bringing that to the forefront.
Just a point of clarity, when you say it's a previous year thing, are we sure I know that maybe we are only required to update it yearly, but it has the capabilities to update more real time, doesn't it?
So I don't actually have that information. I've not used Munitrex before, but we did talk about it from an accounting standpoint of what we plan to have available. And then if there's something, once we see it, if there's a different expectation and potential maybe even training, then I think we'll have to look at that at that time. Unfortunately, this was something that our last CFO was working on and then was not able to be implemented fully. And so she dived right in to make sure that she can pick up where it was left off. And to be honest, it wasn't started. So she definitely has done what she could. And like I said, during her report, I welcome for you to re-ask that question, or she can just answer it.
Yep. Actually, I did speak with the previous CFO when he was working on it, and he was in communication with me, telling me that he was starting to update that platform. and that it is possible, and he actually likes it better than the ones that we had before. So you can't hear me, Liz? Okay, so what I was saying is that our previous CFO did correspond with me when he was starting to switch over to Munetrics. And he said that it is possible to upload those documents, and he was starting to do that. And so I guess what I'm wondering is it, is it the will of the finance committee, if we have those capabilities to do that? Or are you just preferring that we only update once a year?
So at this time, again, I'm gonna defer to Molly for her for her to answer that question during her presentation. At this time, I can answer questions, according to the report that I provided. And then during her report, that is on her, report, so she'll be able to answer that question more or either, kind of let you know.
Thank you.
No problem.
I'm on-
Any other questions for my finance report? Thank you guys so much.
I just want to make a note that we will be excusing the facilities and curriculum committee report. So I'll go with the HR report. Well, I'll go with the HR report. We discussed about the ongoing audit, HR audit that the department is still going through.
Is the report in here?
The HR audit,
The HR report? Oh,
there isn't one.
okay.
We discussed the HR audit that we are currently going through. We discussed the climate of school, when we were discussing it about the transitions and how the staff were getting in their roles and the change that we were noticing in some of the schools from Fairplain Junior High to DEC and the different roles and the transitions. We also discussed the ongoing hiring that we are, as you can see, we have 8 people that we will be voting on today and recruiting our staff. How do we recruit? One of the things that we discussed was one thing we did discuss, and let me go back to that. The HR audit will be available at the end of the month. I'm sorry. One thing we did discuss about, like last week, TSU was in Notre Dame, and we discussed how do we bring and recruit some of those Black colleges to hire our teachers. So we are going to be making connections how do we hire some of the students to become teachers in our district? So we are going to be making those connections. And that's what we discussed. As you can see in the report, the HR regarding employee separations with their survey. A lot of times we've noticed that some of the employees just don't want to do a survey. And we discussed that. And we discussed another thing that we're looking into. We don't want to violate anybody's rights, but the Family Medical Leave Act and short-term disability. Are we doing our job as a district and making sure if we need a second opinion or anything, and making sure people are not using that system to abuse it. So that's some of the things that we discussed in the HR committee.
Vice President Bowens, I have a question.
I do, go ahead.
Oh, of course, yes, thank you. One of the questions that I think came up in our last special meeting, just wondering when or if the staff handbook was available online. I think it's important. I do have constituents that reaches out to me and I do defer them back. And so if we could get that and make sure it's available online, it'll be very useful where I can just send it to them. And also if we can make sure that the chain of command or the organizational chart is updated and made available online. So you don't necessarily have to answer that, but those are things I want to make sure that we get an answer to, because I think they could definitely help us with some of those risk management things.
Absolutely. I know you said we don't have to answer, but can I answer?
Oh, sure. Thank you. I just
I'm
don't want
gonna
to put
get
you on the
that to
spot.
Dr. Butts.
Okay, thank you.
To answer Dr. Butts.
Thank you, Vice President Bowens. Yes, ma'am, we are actively working on the employee handbook. I have a draft already in place. I want to run it by the HR committee. And it will be ready prior to next month's board meeting.
Thank you.
Your second question was,
Organizational chart.
organizational chart, and we are
information.
waiting on,
Mhm.
we provided a preliminary to HR Advantage. So as they finish out their report, we will have an org chart forthcoming real soon.
Thank you.
Can I add a few
Can
things?
can I make a special request?
Yes, ma'am.
Until those things, if we have a employee that has separated, can we at least just remove them so that we're not misadvertising?
I-
And I'm not saying anyone in particular, I just noticed a few things online, so that's just a little request. Nothing that needs follow-up.
We'll address it. Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
We also talked about promoting,
Can you talk in your mic?
we also discussed about having a promotional video for our school district to highlight our school district to the community and to the surrounding communities, so that they will begin to send their children here, just like we send our children there. Benton Harbor Area Schools has some great things going on, some great things in the works and in progress. And so with the video, we can help to share that with the community, to get that out to the community. We also discussed having to have more avenues to advertise for our school, expand the database. I know we do the Berry Consortium, but we can also do Andrews, the surrounding universities. We can let our advertisement go as far as we want. Facebook, what else do they have? The Indeed. Somebody even, I think our president mentioned even putting it on Indeed for a job, or My Job Helpers, or whatever, so that we can also recruit that way.
Okay,
I'm done.
thank you. Therefore, being no other questions, we'll go to the policy committee. Trustee Craig, Gavin.
I did have a question about human resources.
Oh,
So
I'm
there
sorry.
is no committee report available at this time. Is there going to be a report available to us later?
In the future, there will be a report available.
Okay. Okay, so with the policy committee, we were scheduled to meet yesterday, but that unfortunately did not happen. The notes for that meeting are available. I asked if we can moving forward have those notes linked to the, can you hear me, Liz? You can't hear me? Okay, so I've asked if our policy committee notes can be linked to the agenda moving forward. They were there before, but maybe the last couple meetings they haven't been. We want to make sure that we are being transparent with anyone who's interested in knowing what we're meeting about. So we do not have a first reading of new policies, but we do have a second reading for policy 2623, policy 6460, and policy 7540.02. We've already taken a look at those policies in our past meeting, and so we're just needing the board to approve the recommendations. We did not make changes to these policies. We accepted the Neola recommendations to those policies. And so Dr. Butts, if you do not mind reading staff report S1 so that we can approve the revisions, and then I'll take it from there.
Yes, ma'am. Reason for board consideration, the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education to review the updated Neola policy adoption as listed below. Facts and analysis: twice a year, Neola sends out new and/or revised policies to school districts. The central administration reviews them and notates their suggestions. These are then given to the board for review and approval. The following policies are recommended for revision. And they're not on here, so let me go back to the policy 2623, policy 6460, policy 7540.02, Policy reference 0131.1 bylaws and policy. Strategic plan reference, facilities operations, Benton Harbor area schools will develop, implement, and evaluate a fiscally responsible plan that will ensure physical and psychological safety. Recommended action that the Benton Harbor Area School Board of Education votes to approve the Benton Harbor Area School revised Neola policy as presented.
I make a motion that we approve staff report S1.
Second.
The motion has been made by Treasurer Creighton and supported by Trustee Gavin. Any questions, comments, and concerns? Let the record show President Robinson has arrived.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Barnes, for stepping in. Hearing no questions or concerns, Liz, can you please call the vote for staff report S1?
Robinson,
Yes.
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 Ed Martin.
Yes.
Gavin.
Yes.
All right, awesome.
Still on the policy committee.
Oh, you may proceed.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to add that even though we didn't get an opportunity to meet yesterday, we will meet next Monday. And I noticed that Trustee Rockhead Martin did give some input into the next policies that we're going to be reviewing. And we have a document that's available for the staff, for the superintendent, for the public. If they want to chime in on the policies that we are considering, I invite you, and of course, our board members, to also add any insights that you have. We're going to be debating how we select our student body representatives, how we deal with our agenda, how do we include the public to make sure that when they do speak for a public comment, we're figuring out a way to address them and not make them feel like ignored. And we're also going to be, let's see, public participation. And then also we're going to be discussing how can we discuss what is going to be on the next board agenda in a way that's more transparent so that the public can kind of see what items we're going to be adding to the agenda. So it'd be really great to have that, you know, that input as we debate those issues and then formulate the policy and then make those recommendations to the board. So we will be meeting next week, but hopefully the policy committee notes will be added to the agenda as a link. And the link to that document for your input will be in those policy committee meeting notes. And I thank you all so much. Appreciate the committee, and I'll turn it over to President Robinson.
Thank you, Trustee Gavin. If there's no other questions regarding the policy committee update provided, I'll pass the floor directly to our superintendent, Dr. Butts, and he's going to begin with the partnership agreement update.
Thank you, Madam President. With the partnership agreement update, I'll let Dr. Crowe give an update on that, and I'll start with the strategic plan update.
Thank you, Superintendent Butts. For the partnership agreement meeting, we met this morning and had the opportunity to discuss the status of the partnership agreement with Kim Davis, our MDE representative, and Gloria Chapman, our other MDE representative. We covered the progress on our interim target benchmarks and our end target benchmark specifically. We spent some time talking about the MyKIP strategy implementation, which we're working on with building principals. As several building principals move to different buildings this year, they are making some adjustments in their MyKIP plans, which are being updated throughout the next couple of weeks as we meet with the building principals. We'll also be updating the strategies and activities used for the MyKIPs to make sure that they are representative of what's actually happening in the building. Along with that, we discussed enrollment and our average daily attendance. Though I will say we talked specifically about the fact that the drop day is today. So those numbers are changing drastically as we kind of get a feel for where our students are at. So those numbers will actually be updated with our accurate totals for our next partnership agreement meeting, which happens in October. We spent a good deal of time today talking about our first set of data, which is our Ames Web data. We went through a pretty extensive presentation where we talked about the breakdown of our data. What we're trying to do with the literacy and curriculum department is take a specific look at what our data is telling us. So we're breaking it down by subtests, not just overall tests, and we're looking at cohorts. So not just this year's data or last year's data, but we're actually looking at the information over several years for the duration of the CLSD grant. So we're actually looking at 3 years worth of data right now. And what we're finding, some significant findings that we've seen so far is that staff turnover is affecting our students' test scores in a negative way. So when we're seeing students who have had several teacher turnovers throughout their experience in the last 3 years, their scores are a little bit lower than their counterparts that we've managed to retain their teachers. We're also seeing that we're able to correlate specific initiatives that we're implementing throughout the district with higher test scores. So teachers who are actively using the initiatives that we're seeing in the classroom, we're seeing higher test scores. Now, when we've got teacher turnover, we need to make sure that we're coming back around and retraining and supporting those new teachers. So that's an area that we're going to be paying special attention to as we move into the first set of benchmarks, which is our interim target benchmarks. So this is something that we're able to actually correlate with data as we're moving through. We're able to identify very specific, not just, teachers who need additional support, but specific subtests that our students need additional support. And we're able to connect it very specifically with what we're seeing both anecdotally and in terms of the initiative use. So we can provide that data to you. I know President Robinson saw some of this today at the meeting itself. So it is pretty extensive. We also updated on finance and curriculum and special ed as well as HR today in that meeting. Talked about our allocations for some of our grants and what's coming up, specifically 21H, which is going to give us some flexibility in terms of providing some additional resources, both to the buildings, in terms of the libraries. All of our libraries will be open in the next few weeks, which is very exciting. And for those who are not aware, our buildings have not had open libraries consistently in the last decade. So this is a huge deal for us. We're also supplementing that with CLSD funds. So we're able to continue to purchase books and furniture for some of the libraries. So very exciting. For curriculum, we talked about the new textbooks and trainings that have gone along with that. Our teachers district-wide have received science and social studies textbooks upgrades, and they've received the training for those new textbooks. So we're in the process of implementing that information into our pacing guides and into our classrooms. We are making sure that any teachers who didn't receive training or as much training as they would like, we're supplementing that and working with the textbook companies to make sure that those individuals have access to that information and training. We've started the walkthroughs and observations throughout the buildings, and we're really excited about what we've been seeing initially from those walkthroughs. The climate is definitely a very positive one so far this year. One other notable update for curriculum is that we have an increase in our English language learners in the district-wide. That is highlighting some needs that we will be addressing in the upcoming meetings. We need to take a look at what our numbers end up being for that population of students to make sure that we are effectively supporting those students. For special ed, we discussed training in the new special ed curriculum. We are doing PLC specifically for teachers and parapros for special ed to make sure that we have proper training and clear approaches for how to support our special ed students. And then finally, we discussed our staffing information and vacancies throughout the district and what our approach is for addressing those vacancies.
Thank you. Prior to opening up the floor for questions, I just want you all to know that there is an agenda that's sent out for the meeting each time we have a partnership team meeting. So I'll start having those forwarded to you all. So even if you can't attend, you have an idea of what has been addressed in that particular meeting. And then I did request that Ms. Crowe give us more of a thorough update, because I know some of us are able to attend the meetings, but we're not there as a full body and the public is not there. So we'll ensure that everyone at the table and the public are aware of every step of that process. So our update will be a little more thorough each month. But at this particular time, are there any questions or comments regarding the partnership agreement update? Anything additional you wanted to add?
No, ma'am.
You had a question?
I do.
You have the
Um,
floor.
Thank you, Dr. Crowe.
Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Crowe, for that update. I did have a couple questions. One, of course, I would love to know what the state's response is, in regards to us and our targets. And then two, I'm happy to hear that you're doing observations. And just kind of wondering if you could kind of take us through a little bit in more detail. What does that entail? Is it, who is doing the observations, and if there's something in place so that the people who are being observed also have some supportive feedback. And then the other question is about the professional learning communities. Is that what you meant by PLCs?
Yes.
Okay, I noticed you said that you have that for special education. I'm wondering if that is also available for all of the staff.
I'll start with your first question. MDE's response today in particular was very encouraging. We kind of debriefed after the meeting for a few minutes, but they were excited to see the progress that we've made already towards our interim target outcomes. It's a heavy lift to look that heavily at data, but being able to isolate specific things that we need to look at has been incredibly helpful. And they encourage us to continue that dialogue and that discovery so that we can make sure that we're providing the right interventions and initiatives that address those specific issues that will allow us to grow in those areas. So right now, it's about making sure that we have the funding to be able to conduct those initiatives and interventions, that we have the support from both Barry and Risa and from MDE to be able to make sure we're making those decisions, and that as a whole, we feel like we're moving in the right direction, that we're meeting our vision and goals. So today's meeting went extremely well, and we felt really good about where we were at. Both MDE and Berrien expressed that to us. In terms of your second question, walkthroughs, there are several different groups that do walkthroughs or observations. The principals do that for evaluative purposes. I know Dr. Butts does that. And then of course, my team with the literacy and curriculum team, we conduct those sometimes with instructional facilitators or coaches, sometimes just with the team. And the purpose for my team to be doing those walkthroughs is not evaluative, but supportive. So if we're seeing that teachers need more support or training in specific areas based on what's happening in the classroom, I'm able to provide that to principals or to individual teachers themselves. It allows me to see how initiatives look in action. So for instance, our letters training, which we've spent a great deal of time and money on for the district, especially with the grants, I'm looking to see how that's being implemented, and if it's being implemented with fidelity throughout the district. And if it's not, why is that? Is it a teacher who needs more support? Is it specifics within the classroom environment? My job is to find out what that is so I can support and make sure that that's happening effectively. It also allows me to see how the curriculum is being used. One of the issues that could cause us to run into obstacles with our performance and what our students are learning is if folks aren't using the resources we have, whether it's textbooks, pacing guides, whatever it happens to be, new Promethean boards, anything like that. So it's making sure that folks understand where we should be and what we should be using. Again, it could be a training issue. And it's making sure that the principals or instructional facilitators are aware so they too can provide that support. So that information is usually given out through something we call glows and grows. So I talk about the things that we love seeing at each grade level. Usually I do it by grade level. So there's not specific people pointed out or anything like that. It's more collaborative. And then grows as a whole, here's where we need to focus. And the focus is on celebrating the things that we're doing well by making sure, but also making sure we're highlighting those areas where we do need to focus a little bit more attention and maybe use the skills that we're seeing in those other successes towards those areas of weakness. So those go out to teachers and principals as well after observations from my team. That's how we approach that. And then your third question with PLCs. Each building is required to do PLCs, not just the special ed group, but every 10 days they should be meeting to discuss whatever new information or data analysis or additional training that needs to happen. And that's going to be specific per building. Different buildings are going to have different needs that they need to address. Sometimes they're meeting at grade level, sometimes they're meeting by subject level. It just kind of depends on the building itself, and they'll determine what their agendas are for PLC meetings.
Thank you.
Did that answer your questions?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Did you have something to add, Dr. Butt? All right, if there's no other questions, we'll proceed with the strategic plan update, Dr. Butts.
Thank you, Madam President. Board of Education, in front of you, you should have a packet with the strategic goals, the key performance indicators and metrics. What under academics and programs, what we're highlighting this month is to continue to implement and monitor academic initiatives with established markers of effectiveness. We did a lot of training this summer up to the school year. Dr. Crow, just talked about professional learning communities and the staff meetings. And what she did not mention are the upcoming DPPD days that we will be doing even more training along with the thinking maps and collaborative classrooms. Also in the academics, one of the key performance indicators we're looking at is evaluate effectiveness of alternative education programs by analyzing performance, two-way communication and participation. This year at our alternative school at Cape, students will be required to come in 2 days a week for in-person tutoring and in-person help. We've noticed that some of our students struggle with just the virtual platform. So this year we're requiring them a 2-day in-person requirement to give them that additional in-person support from live in-person teachers. The next key performance indicator that we were highlighting this month is implementation of district-wide pacing guides for curriculum and monitoring. So with the new books that we have, we created new pacing guides and common formative assessments or CFAs for those. And we will be using the data for those to scaffold and or reteach for those students that are proficient and or those that are not proficient. Under culture and learn environment, the key performance indicator being highlighted is provide professional development on inclusionary practices and implement specific strategies to increase student and staff inclusion rates. Also during the summer, we did a lot of professional development on inclusionary practices. We sent 20 teachers over to Detroit for the name of the training again.
We sent 28 teachers to the Explicit Instruction Academy with Anita Archer.
So with that training, the teachers, our new teachers, were introduced on not just the pedagogy, but how to tie all points in together. So the training that they receive when they get into the classroom, what to expect and how to look at the data was what that training was based on. So it's not just we're not just hiring people and putting them in classroom without more explicit training and helping them to acclimate to the teaching environment. And we'll be doing follow-up on our DPPD days, along with the letters training, the Kagan training, and the restorative justice. Also on the culture and learn environment, the key performance indicator we're looking at is implement annual attendance truancy awareness campaign and monitor student-centered attendance. As Dr. Crowell mentioned in the partnership agreement, one of the things that we noticed is the daily attendance. What we're trying to establish and make sure, not only through the finance committee, but through HR, is that we have or have not established that there is or there was a truancy position. So we want to make sure moving forward that if we need to bring that to the board for an approval, we will do it in the right manner so that we can get that job posted as it was budgeted in our annual budget. So we are looking at that, and that's in process. Under personnel and leadership, the key performance indicator is to continue to implement and monitor the Grow Your Own teacher development programs designed to recruit personnel into the education profession. This year we have 64 new teachers in our Grow Your Own program. So we are excited to have them out of that. They were 28 of the teachers that went and participated in the training in Detroit. Those are the teachers in training, the teachers and training program, excuse me. Also under personnel and leadership, the key performance indicator that we're highlighting is continue to refine and improve compensation structure. This year, everyone in the district received a 5% increase in their pay. So we're continuing to look at that and the sustainability of that. Under communications and community engagement, the key performance indicator is engage in two-way communication regarding education programming, operations, and environment. And we're still working on establishing avenues for stakeholder feedback, using the robust more to also ramp up our GRSP student population. We unfortunately did not get out ahead of that, but we are planning some. We're planning some dates for those to be rolled out. Under community and communications and community engagement, another key performance indicator that we looked at is continue to support and expand partnerships with strategic community partners. Identify Lake Michigan partnership goals, and we still are trying to get our dual enrollment and credit and allied health pathways, making sure that we're in accordance with those. Under operations, the key performance indicator for this month is complete request for proposals, process for outstanding financial service requests, and I'll speak to that under the boiler RFP update on the next one that I'll speak to. The last key performance indicator on the strategic plan update under operations is develop a master's facility plan for educational facilities, capital improvement, and real estate. Unfortunately, we've not been able to have our facilities committee meeting this month, but we will be making sure that we get our companies that we've identified that we want to bring in front of the board and let them present, so that we can choose a company to complete our master's facilities plan. And that is it for the strategic plan update, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Bus. Before I open the floor for questions, when we have these moving forward, can we have the PowerPoint link to the agenda? That way the public can view it as you're providing an update versus them just hearing, because I'm more of a visual learner. And then at this time, I'll ask, is there any questions from the board, any comments or feedback?
I have some questions.
You have the floor.
Thank you, President Robinson. Thank you, Dr. Butts, for this document. You went through it so fast.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a lot of information. I had a question in regards to truancy. A few questions. So one, you said that we are looking to hire somebody to address the truancy issue.
Yes, ma'am. So we put in the budget for a truancy, to hire a truancy officer, but I want to make sure that that position does not already exist, or we need to have one created and voted on by the board before we put it out on our job hiring board.
I guess my question is, we've had a truancy officer before, so is that as simple as just
Running it through the HR committee to make sure. I just want to make sure I follow the policy and not get caught up in hiring for a position that hadn't been created by the board.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, so that's great. We're gonna go ahead and do that. My other question was about, I guess, the master plan, the facilities master plan. Are you gonna speak more to that when we get to the boiler update? Or should I go ahead? Or maybe I'll go ahead and ask those questions now. We've been talking about developing a facilities master plan for quite a while now, and we haven't been having our facilities committee meetings. And so one, I guess my question is, if we don't have the committee meetings, does that hold you up from being able to do what you need to do? Are you not able to do what you need to do until we have a facilities committee meeting?
What I typically like to do is run it through the committee first,
Mhm.
just to follow the proper chain of command. And in this instance, since we've not been able to have one, what I can do is communicate through the board president, and she can communicate through the rest of the board whether or not we want to go ahead and proceed. So actually, it does not hold us up,
Mhm.
but I try to stay as I've been raised up to say decent and in order and try to run it through the committee first. But if I see it as a challenge, and I'll address it under the boiler. So I'll just jump straight to the boiler RFP, if you would. With the boiler,
I would ask that you answer her question and then we'll
Okay.
pause just in case anyone else has questions about this document.
okay, so that's what I try to do is make sure that I give the committee a chance. And if I see there's any delay or if there will be a delay, I would send it through the president so that she can communicate throughout the board.
And
And
our
just
Treasurer Creighton had a response to your question as well, Trustee Gavin.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Butts. I think in the most gracious way possible, he is trying to say that we've had a lot of personal, professional issues that with our committee, nothing against anyone. We have just personally had things come up like a domino effect that, has kind of just put us at a standstill. One person was out, then I had a family emergency, then another member had a family emergency. We had some turnover in the department. And so, honestly, without making excuses, we've just kind of been going through it. I think personally, and these things and these fires have been just happening. It seems like right before the meeting. So, thank you all for grace. We did get a chance to connect, unofficially, but it's kind of been difficult. And so one of the things that, we did talk about is just having, a meeting to kind of pick up, catch everyone up to speed and provide updates. And then just add it as a discussion topic so that we can kind of figure out, okay, what is it that we want in this facilities master plan? I don't want you guys to think that we have not met. We had a lot of meetings, but we were not able to have this last meeting. But we did sit in on a few unplanned presentations. We've gotten a lot of training as it pertains to the RFP process. And actually the state requirements, the federal requirements, the sinking fund requirements. So we do have a lot of information. I think right in the midst of that, like I said, some of our admin had some personal things that they had to take care of and they were out. And then we had a turnover in staff. And so, we've kind of been going through, but we do have the information. And thank God we'll be able to hopefully move forward. One thing I want to mention before I kind of
You may
end my
proceed.
thought is that we need to, when we say facilities master plan, it's like going to the cheese section at the grocery store, right? There are so many different kinds of cheese. You might have shredded cheese, melted cheese, XYZ, sliced cheese, you get it, prepackaged, individual pasteurized, all of that. And that's what we learned about this facilities master plan. There are improvements, there are real estate. I mean, it's just so many elements. And so when we threw that out there, we need to kind of further unpack what it is specifically that we would like to do right now at this particular juncture. Are we just looking at the open buildings? Are we looking at X, Y, Z? So you guys get it. So it's much more complicated than what we thought. And so as you think about that, just send us as a committee ideas on where we are or under board business. We can kind of make that maybe a topic and really talk about specifically in the next 60 days to, the next year, what is it that we would like to come out of this plan? Because there are so many different elements to a facilities master plan. And it's not just a matter of, it's pretty extensive that we didn't know that.
I guess that for me, my question is, we're still at the spot of choosing somebody to do the master plan. And so,
Correct.
I'm
Let's do
wondering
one
if,
question at a
how
time.
many months in are we in just choosing a company to do the plan? Like,
Correct. So when
once we choose somebody to do the plan, then I'm thinking that they will facilitate our next steps and getting everybody's input and then creating the plan. It
Nope.
feels, no. So we gotta
if you can
tell
let me
them.
answer your question, and then you can, if you have a follow-up, Madam President can give you the floor.
I was talking.
So
Talking to you have a question.
So we're gonna pause for a second. And you asked a question, you did ask a question about, the plan or how long it's taken to set up the plan. So in the chair's absence, I'll allow Treasurer Creighton to respond to that one, and then we'll go back to your.
And she did
Additional
respond.
question.
And so what I was saying is,
Is this an additional question or you
yes,
just making
this
a
was my-
comment? Okay,
this
go
was my
ahead.
question. We're sitting at the point of a facilities master plan and choosing somebody to actually do it. What is taking so long to just choose somebody to do the plan? And once we choose that company, can't they facilitate the next steps for us?
Treasurer Creighton, would you like to respond?
Most definitely. Yep. Thank you. So again, the process, is not that simple. When you go into the hair salon and you sit in a chair, you have to tell them what you actually want done. Right? And so it's the same. When we choose a company to do our facilities master plan, we have to know, and we didn't know this. We sat in on 3 so far presentations to actually learn about facility master plans. So they charge us and we do the RFP according to what the specifics of what the specifications of what we're actually looking for. So if we say that we want them to come in and do a walk of our building, to look at maintenance or to look at whatever we're looking for, we have to specify that and then do an RFP for those specific services. And so right now we said a facilities master plan. We learned that part of a facilities master plan, even to get boilers, for example, they have to do an entire blueprint of the building, all of the electrical, all of the water, every power source, whole window in the building, which is 18 months. And so what is it that we want them to do? That's one part of it, just to look at boilers. And so when we are, and that's what we're saying. So we learned that this is like major. This is not like, again, it's a major decision. And so we have to kind of specify what specifically right now we're looking at. And we do have several buildings. And so they want to know, okay, where do we start? This is not something that we've done in a long time. If it's been done, we don't have a record of it. And so the plan is outdated. So they've done different things in different plans, but nothing, it looks differently to every board, right? To every group, every admin. And so again, if we have some suggestions on where they can start and do a plan, like kind of like the strategic plan. With the strategic plan, we identified 3 goals. Reading or language arts, right? Math, and then culture and climate. So with this facilities plan, if we identify 3 major goals, then that'll give them a place to start. But just saying that you want a facilities master plan, it's so vague that we would spend so much time. So again, if we can work on identifying some of the goals and outcomes that we're looking to be in this plan, then we can give our admin and then also the consultants a place to start.
I have a question.
Trustee Raquel Martin.
So,
And I just want to remind everyone that we are technically still on strategic goals. And I ask that we not just go into the boiler RFP conversation. So I'm going to pause for a second and ask you if you have a question that's specific to the strategic goal that isn't directly related to boilers. If not, then
no,
we'll
it's not
proceed.
directly related to boilers.
So is it regarding the strategic plan?
It's the strategic plan for our master plan.
Well, I'm going to ask that you wait.
Okay.
Okay, any questions regarding the strategic goals that were provided? If not, we can proceed to boiler RFP and I'll give the floor to Trustee Raquel Martin. All right, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So Treasurer Creighton, what you're saying is we can give suggestions to the facilities people, right? Is that how we would do it? We see things that we would like to see for our district or included in the master plan. We have to do that first. So we could give you like a suggestion or suggestions, and then they would take that and see how they could work it into our master plan.
So I think what we a good example that I didn't think of before, but like I just gave, is like when we made our strategic plan. The facilities master plan is a strategic plan for facilities.
Right.
So if a good place, in my professional and personal opinion, if we start with a few goals that we would like to start with, it'll be a starting point.
Okay.
Our buildings, it's so many elements to it. So yep, I would recommend that we start brainstorming what are the main things we want to come out of this first plan. And then we can then work on and identify key performance indicators, metrics, and evidence as we move forward. But in order to do an RFP, we need to know give them a place to start.
Right, okay, so suggestions. we can give
Otherwise,
you.
we're looking at millions and millions of dollars.
Right,
And
Right.
then we might not be on the board when it's actually time to implement the plan.
Right.
Because remember, this is just a plan, it's not any action. It's their assessment and then helping us develop a
Okay.
plan.
All right, and so now we're at the boiler RFP update. Dr. Bus, there's been quite a bit of conversation and updates already provided in this dialogue. Is there anything that you would like to provide that has not already been mentioned?
Yes, Madam President, the RFPs for the A&E firm to get started, to give our starting point, will be going out by the end of the week, or they will be live by the beginning of next week.
And can you clarify what those firms are going to be doing?
Those firms will actually be doing the framework. They will be coming in, looking at the electrical, they will be looking at the plumbing, and they will be looking at the structural work that will need to take place and drawing up the blueprints to replace the boilers at the high school and Fairplain East Elementary School.
Thank you, Dr. Bus. I would just like to thank you all for the dialogue that just took place. I think it was helpful in updating not only the board, but the public on the process in itself. I'd like to thank you for stepping in the absence of the chair and speaking to the efforts that the Facilities Committee has made. I would like to indicate and express in front of everyone that I have every bit of faith in Treasurer Creighton, Vice President Bowens, and Secretary Triplett as members of our Facilities Committee. And I think it's important for everyone to realize that our assets are extremely valuable to us. And this may not be something that comes second nature to individuals that are not working in this field. And so the decisions that we make at this board seat, the decisions that we make as it relates to our assets are not just impacting us currently, but they're impacting the future of the district and the future of our students. And so I appreciate you all doing the work, the research, and your due diligence in ensuring that you are completely informed on this process so that we can have a product that we're satisfied with. But we're all aware that it is something that we've deemed a priority. So I just want to say I do appreciate your efforts in ensuring that we all are prepared and informed. You have the floor.
Thank you. And just as a little joke, being on this committee has kind of been like taking a physiology and anatomy class, because it's a foreign subject and it's something definitely brand new, I think, for a lot of us. And so it's been a great opportunity to learn and to also work with our admin on, really knowing. I think before I think it was my big mouth that actually said, oh, I want to make a motion to develop a facilities master plan my first year on the board. And I thought it was much easier. And so now with your vision of putting me on the facilities committee, it's been like taking a high level science course, but we're definitely up for the task. Just want to again mention that this boiler, to support what Dr. Buss said with this boiler RFP, again, this is not to actually select a company to actually do the boilers. We learned in our last meeting, not facilities meeting, but our last presentation for boilers, that some of the surrounding districts and businesses that have replaced and done similar projects, I hate to say this, but they said it took them about 18 to 24 months out to actually plan for something like this. Yep.
Thank you. And I just have a follow-up question with that update. What contingency plans do we have in place as it relates to our boilers if we have difficulties once the winter hits?
Thank you, Madam President. We do have, we have built in our budget some contingency plans as far as bringing out the portable heaters for the buildings, and these are not just small portable heat. We're talking about the 18-wheeler size ones that you see on the bigger buildings in the bigger cities that will be able to heat the entire building. So we have budgeted for those aside. Also, we've spoken with our the company that has been servicing the boilers, Egan, and they have assured us that as long as we've done the maintenance, which we have on the boilers, that we do have at least one more season out of them. So we are not in the emergency phase as of yet. So according to them.
Yes.
So according to them, and then they're the experts, we are not there yet, but we do have a contingency plan and have budgeted in this year's budget to make sure that we can keep our students in school and warm during this winter.
My final question is a follow-up to your question as it relates to the substitute for heat that you have. What is the term that you used? My apologies. Some standalone heaters?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do we know the time frame of turnaround of ordering those?
That's what I'll be working on this week,
Okay.
because I want to get out ahead of any other potential big businesses putting those on standby.
Okay.
Since we budgeted for them, we can go ahead and put those on
And
standby.
if you can give that to the facilities committee in the next meeting, that would be great. Cause
Yeah.
I would hate for us to get in the dead of winter. You know how Michigan does us. We have an issue with the boiler and we have to order heaters that have a significant wait time. So we can kind of know that in advance. And that way our contingency plan will be fully ironed out.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so we're gonna proceed at this particular time to contract signatories and bank signatories. This is staff report S2 and S3. As you all remember, in the absence of the CFO, I've had to be the signatory, which made me extremely nervous. So I am extremely grateful to have Molly on board to take my name off the accounts. So I'm gonna pass the floor over to Dr. Butts and he's gonna proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Reason for board consideration, a recent change in staff merits the updating of board-approved contract signatories. Facts and analysis with the recent hire of a chief financial officer is recommended that the list of authorized signatories be updated. Policy reference none, strategic plan reference, facilities operation, Benton Harbor area schools will develop, implement, and evaluate a fiscally responsible plan that will ensure physical and psychological safety. Recommended action that the Board of Education approve the following contract signatory changes as of 9/12/23. Add Molly Vincent, Chief Financial Officer.
I make a motion to approve staff report S2.
Support.
The motion has been made by Treasurer Creighton and supported by Vice President Bowens. I just want to make sure we notate it says to remove myself because he didn't note that, but I know you all can read it. Any questions, comments, or concerns regarding staff report S2?
I have a question / comment.
You have the floor.
I think it might be a policy reference. If we can check on that policy reference, I do think it's a policy reference for signatories. So if we can get the policy reference for that.
The 63.
Yes, ma'am. Right, that's staff report S3, right?
Yes, bank.
Right.
But it does say that. So is it a misprint? S2.
S2, okay, what are you saying it should not say, Liz? I've gotten lost.
Madam President,
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. So can we just edit that line and remove myself?
Madam President,
You have the floor.
I would like to make a motion that, I would like to amend my motion.
You can proceed.
Thank you. I would like to amend a motion, that was made for staff report S2 and remove the line that says, remove Deshauna Robinson, Board President.
Vice President Bowens, do you still support the
Support.
amended? Okay, the motion has been made by Treasurer Creighton and supported by Vice President Bowens. Any additional questions, comments, or concerns? Dr. Bus, you look perplexed.
It's not on the electronic one, I'm sorry.
Oh, our printed copy says it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, if there's no other questions, Liz, can you please call the vote?
Oh, Madam President, I'm sorry.
You have the floor.
I wonder, do I need to actually amend the motion to remove policy reference none, or is that,
Do you have the policy pulled up?
I don't, do we have time? We can look it up real quick.
Sure. We're gonna actually pause and move on to staff report S3 and allow for the addition of the policy reference. So while Dr. Bus is looking that up, I will read staff report S3 for him. Staff report, Ben Harbor Area Schools, subject bank signatory updates dated for today. Reason for board consideration with the recent hire of a chief financial officer. It is recommended that the board update the approved bank signatories. Facts and analysis. At the August 29, 2023 board meeting, the board approved the hire of Chief Financial Officer Molly Vincent. This will require an updating of the district banking accounts. Policy reference 6320, purchasing, strategic plan goal reference, facilities operations. Benton Harbor Area Schools will develop, implement, and evaluate a fiscally responsible plan that will ensure physical and psychological safety. Recommended action that the Board of Education approve the following bank signatory changes. Remove Deshauna Robinson, President of the Board. Add Molly Vincent, Chief Financial Officer, effective September 12th, 2023, as approved. Signatory for all district bank accounts in Horizon and in Huntington Bank. Approved for presentation to the Board of Education by Dr. Kelvin Butts. Is there a motion to approve staff report S3?
I make a motion to approve staff report S3.
Is there a second or support?
A point of clarity.
You have the floor.
Can we have two active motions on the floor at the same time?
You can withdraw that particular motion, but I proceeded, so we are not paused.
Can you explain?
Explain what?
We never voted on the other one.
Right, because so what I'm trying to do is keep the meeting moving. So if she wants to temporarily withdraw that motion so we can proceed to S3 and not sit here for 5 minutes while they pull it up, I would appreciate it.
Perfect. At this time, Madam President, I'm sorry.
You have the floor.
At this time, I would like to withdraw the motion for staff report S2 until we actually get the policy reference.
All right, is there a motion to approve staff report S3?
I think I see it there.
The motion has been made by trustee Rocket Martin. Is there a second or support?
Second.
The motion was made by trustee Rocket Martin and supported by Vice President Bowens. Any questions, comments, or concerns regarding staff report S3?
Madam President,
You have the floor.
is this the correct policy reference? I think staff report policy reference 6320 is actually for staff report S2. 60, and then staff report S3. Is the bank in there?
1620. I'm gonna look it up.
I don't have.
Madam
my
President, at this
pulled
time,
up.
who made the motion?
Trustee Rocket Martin. And Vice President Bowens.
So I guess my comment is it possible that we can actually I don't know if we need to table them until the end of the meeting or until recess or what we need to do, but these are very serious policy changes and signatories. And so I would feel most comfortable as the treasurer if we have the correct policy reference.
I have no objections. What would be your preference? I'm just anxious to get my name off.
Correct. So we don't have to table it for another day. I think we can move it to the end of the agenda and I'll continue to multitask and find the correct policy reference.
Okay, trustee Rocket Martin, would you like to temporarily withdraw your
That'll be fine.
All right, so we're gonna proceed. And allow Dr. Butts and Liz to, I think Liz is working the computer, so allow Dr. Butts to get that policy pulled up. We're gonna pass the floor over to Molly, staff report F1 regarding the monthly financial reports. Probably can find it quicker than everybody.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Look.
Thank you so much. I am thankful for the progress we have been making in the finance committee. As you can see, this is a more detailed report that we have given with the support of my committee members and Treasurer Creighton. We have been working hard to be able to get this information out in a regular, timely fashion. This is financial reports for the month of July. Our fiscal year runs from July through June. So when you're looking at these reports, you're going to see that there seems to be very little activity relative to the way our spending normally occurs. Given that we are 1 month into the fiscal year at this report, most of our state revenue, we accrue over 11 months. So July is the month where there's no state revenue. And all of the federal expenses go up concurrently with our spending. So if you aren't spending the money, you aren't recognizing the revenue. So when you're looking at this and you see we're only 8% or 9% through the year on revenues, you would expect that to be the case. with the normal happenings in the district. This report, as I said, state aid is over 11 months, and we will be recognizing that first revenue in August, but the payment will come in the month of October. If you look at the budget to actual report, it is a summary version. This matches up with the resolution that was approved at the June 30th meeting. If in the future, if there's anything that looks out of place where one item is object code is function code, one function code is higher than we budgeted, it will be pointed out in the financial summary where you'll see, hey, this is one that we have on our radar for the upcoming amendment in December. There's also a detailed version where you can see it's by each specific function code, which is shows the same overall financial data. It just shows at a level that is we have to report back to the state on. So our financial reporting is at this level annually. The next report is the vendor payment report. This has a report of all the checks that we have processed in the month of July. There is a note for the upcoming meeting. We're going to look to see if there's a way that we can get this to be even more detailed, because what occurs if we pay more than one invoice to the same vendor, it defaults in the system to multiple invoices. It was a point of discussion on a finance committee meeting that we are going to be editing that. If we have to do it manually, we will. So you have that detail available to you. This report also goes hand in hand with staff report F1. If you look at the final page of this vendor summary report on page 3, you can see that it's broken down by fund with the amount of expenditures for that period. The final report, the next two reports are year-to-date revenue comparisons. So what we are doing with these graphs is we're comparing where we've recognized revenue in the first month to what we have done in the previous fiscal year. As you can see, at this point this year, we're at $505,000. And at this point last year, we were at $50,000. That has to do with the discrepancy seems quite large, but it has to do with our intentional revenue recognition rules. So we have complete financials more timely than we have in the past. So we aren't putting off recognizing the revenue so that we know exactly where we are. Our expenditures at this point are about 25% less than they were at this point last year. So we are going through and will be diligently keeping an eye on the revenue, being that we're only 1/12 through the year. These reports only add as much value as we can in this given point in time. The final reports given are the statement of revenue expenditures and the statement of financial position. These compare at a higher level to budget. And you can see that it breaks it down by the major programs. This is the format that you'll see in our audit. So we are highlighting our general fund, our food service fund, and then our general fund and our sinking funds. And then our food service fund is in the non-major programs. One of the items I did want to highlight, if you look at the 2017 sinking fund, you can see that we actually budgeted this to be at a loss. That is because we are planning to do a lot of work in the district for capitalization expenses. With that being at $4 million, we did not budget to sit on this money. We want to make sure we are addressing the needs of the district. Okay. I would want to advise the trustees to reach out to Treasurer Creighton if you have any comments or feedback on the way that we have presented this information. One of the things that I would like to stress is these are live documents, so we're open to feedback and looking to improve based on what you need. And then I would be asking for a vote for staff report F1.
Okay, before you proceed, I just want to pause and see if there's any questions or comments regarding the financial reports that were provided. I just want to say thank you before we actually take the vote on the monthly financial. This time, I'm really excited to see that we're back on track with that, and I do thank you for providing the options. The finance committee working diligently to look at the different reports that are options for us and giving the full board an opportunity to give input on that. Any additional questions or comments from the board? All right, you have the floor.
She's, let her go.
You had a question, trustee Gavin?
Yes, thank you,
You
Molly.
have the floor.
Thank you. It's good to be able to see a breakdown with the schools. So I appreciate that. I did have a question about, I guess it's a line item, 249, other school administration. Can you help me understand what that means when it says like percentage of total budget? It says 213% of that total budget. Like what that would mean to us?
So I will take that as an action, but I will tell you what this means. In that specific function code, we had budgeted $8,000. Currently, there's $17,000 in expenditures in that line item. What I will do for a follow-up is go out and confirm if that expenditure needs to be classed in a different function code, or if it's an item that we need to look at to do a rebudget. Because right now that's saying that we budgeted 213% less than we have actually occurred. Given that this is such a small line item, that percentage seems very alarming, because you look at that 213, but it was only $8,000, it was $8,000, and in the scheme of our budget, it's only less than 0.04% or something like that.
Yes, I'm
So-
just trying to understand, like, does that mean that we're spending more on other school administrator?
What,
Like, I'm not sure what that, is
yeah,
that like a salary, or is that, I'm just trying to understand what that is.
yeah, I will look at that specific line to be able to provide an answer to that question for you. Right now, what my I don't want to misspeak, so I want to see if maybe it was classified in the wrong, incorrect function code, or if I need to go back and do a budget and then amend our budget, which you will have further conversation on for the December meeting.
Okay, and then one last follow-up question. Is there a document that may have, and you may have given it to us and I just didn't notice it. Is there a document that may have kind of more in detail what finances are going towards what within those schools? And then also kind of specifically, where does ESSER funds fall in here as well?
So right now, the general fund houses most of the expenses for the school. So there isn't a breakdown by school in the report. We can take that as a point of comment and take it back to the finance committee meeting and see if it's something that would be valuable, and if it's something we'd like to add moving forward. The vendor payment report is the one that shows the level of detail that you might be looking for outside of salaries of where the expenditures have been spent for the month of July.
Madam
No, just
President,
more so, for example, if I wanted to know how much does Ben Harbor High School have for training their students or something like that, if I wanted to be able to look into the budget and see that, that's kind of where I'm.
Yeah.
Where I'm
So
going with it.
function code 113 is specific to the high school, but high school instruction, what I would caution though is that in all of the support services, which is all the codes that start with 2, so 211 through 229, are also student support services. So there are high school expenses throughout this report where the instruction is 113, but additional expenditures for the high school are in the other function codes. But this report itself is showing the financial picture of the district as a whole, not broken down by school.
I believe Treasurer Creighton also had an additional response.
Yep, and thank you, Ms. Gavin. I think those are all good questions. I just want you guys to keep in mind that these are our monthly financials. This will be our regular monthly report. As far as what I think you're specifically, and forgive me if I'm, if I misheard, but I think what you're specifically asking for is a breakdown of the budget, which wouldn't be a part of our normal financial reports, monthly reports. But if you would like a budget breakdown by school, I don't know if that would be, micromanagement, but if not, I think that's something that we could probably provide. We do have our projected proposed budget that was approved, and that has been provided. If you would like that unpacked a little and to know specifically the school budget, I think that might be something that, can be provided upon request. But as far as our monthly financial reports, in this, the way that it is, this is the way that the function codes are set by the state and federal government. And so what we actually determine is the kind of reports that goes into it. And so I guess just to clarify, are you specifically asking for a school by school budget?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then we'll put that on our agenda for next month and kind of figure out what that might look like. And if you don't mind sending an email as a follow-up, I think that would be perfect to myself, and you could see to whomever else that you feel should be included. But as it pertains to this actual budget, one other thing that I think I heard come up that I want to provide a little support or clarity was the vendor by payment report. So when she mentioned the multiple, the kind of question of topic of discussion that we talked about, it was under the multiple invoices. One of my questions and concerns was that when it says multiple invoices, why did Angel Creighton receive, and I didn't receive anything, this is just an example, but multiple invoices, what was it for? And so what we're looking and researching to figure out is how to customize this report. So under, if you look at the top where it says invoice description, it won't say multiple invoices. It'll actually say track shoes, M&Ms, ice cream, X, Y, Z, right? So that's kind of, so that when the board looks at it, because she won't actually go through line by line, when the board looks at it, there won't be questions, or if you have questions, you'll know that, okay, she didn't actually get a check because we like her, but that this was a reimbursement or X, Y, Z. And so she's just looking to further be transparent and to see how much more information can be provided and how much this can be customized so that we can kind of provide more transparency at the board table.
Thank you. Any additional questions regarding the monthly financial reports before we actually proceed to staff report F1?
I have one, is it a staff report? Because I don't see it on the agenda.
Yep, it's right next to monthly financials.
Okay. Perfect. I make a motion that we approve staff report F1.
She hasn't read it yet.
Oh, sorry, Miss Molly.
Okay. The subject for staff report F1 is the monthly financial reports. The reason for board consideration, the set of financial reports is provided to the Board of Education each month. Facts and analysis this evening is recommended that the July 1st to July 31st, 2023 payments be approved for all district funds. The policy and reference is 6470, payment of claims. The recommendation action is that the Board of Education approve the July 1st to July 31st payments for the following funds. The general fund at $579,392.26. The food service fund at $797.59. The 2007 sinking fund at $7,035. The 2017 sinking fund at $7,894.69, and the student activity fund at $4,128 for a total of $599,247.64. The policy reference is on here twice. And the recommended action is that the Board of Education approve the July 1st to July 31st payments for the listed funds.
Madam President,
You have the floor.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve staff report F1 and also add a 0 to 2007. Yes, sinking fund.
Okay, and I think I think the strategic plan goal reference will actually be facilities and operations. Benton Harbor area schools will develop, implement, and evaluate a fiscally responsible plan that will ensure physical and psychological safety as well. So Treasurer Creighton has made the motion to approve staff report F1 with the noted adjustments. Is there a second or support?
I second the motion.
All right, the motion has been made by Treasurer Creighton and supported by Trustee Rocket Martin. Any additional questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none. Liz, can you please call the vote for staff report F1?
President Robinson?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Creighton?
Yes.
Trustee Gavin?
Yes.
Trustee Rocket Martin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Madam President,
You have the floor.
I would like to make a motion to approve staff report S2 and S3.
All right, and are you wanting to do them within one vote as a consent essentially?
Yes, please.
All right, so just making sure what everyone is doing, we are combining staff reports S2 and S3 and forming a consent agenda vote. So your vote that you give will be for both of those staff reports. So we are adding Molly Vincent, our CFO, to being able to sign contracts.
Yes.
And then we are removing myself from the bank accounts and adding her as a second signatory. The motion has been made by Treasurer Creighton. Is there a second or support?
Madam President,
Yes,
I would like it to be noted, the policy reference. I'm sorry. I
you
should
can
have said that.
proceed.
I apologize. So under staff report S2, the policy reference is 1220 and 6320. Under staff report S3, the policy reference is 1220, 6320, and also 0151. And I think and I'll say this under comments. I apologize. That's the motion.
All right, and who did the support?
Ms. Rocket Martin.
Okay, so the motion was made by Treasurer Creighton and supported by Trustee Rocket Martin. If there's no additional questions, comments, concerns, Liz, can you please? Oh, you want to go ahead and make the comment, Treasurer?
Oh,
Creighton.
I just wanted it to be noted that we were not scrambling, because we didn't know the policy reference. It was a little difficult to find because it's actually under our organizational meeting that we do once a year. And so that's the 0151.
Thank you very much. All right, Liz, please call the vote for staff reports S2 and S3. And your votes, just want to make sure the board is clear, your vote that you are giving is for the approval of both of those reports.
President Robinson?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Creighton?
Yes.
Trustee Rocket Martin?
Yes.
Trustee Gavin?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. We trust you, Molly.
Mhm.
I'm so excited to get my name off of the accounts. I know you guys remember somebody tried to authorize a $33,000 invoice in my name. I've been nervous ever since. So welcome to the team. I'm glad you are here. All right, at this particular time, we're gonna move on to our student support services updates. And I'm going to pass the floor over to Chief Corson. He's gonna begin with the September student support services update.
Thank you, Madam President. I am going to move quickly through our update of the department. And so with facilities, all the main thoroughfares and classroom floors in the district have now been deep cleaned going into this new school year. We also repaired several carpets and other places within the classrooms that may be tripping hazards or needed to be repaired. So this is the first time that we've had that in quite a long time. So I am excited that we can now then begin a maintenance schedule of our floors rather than getting them back to where they should have been. As stated, the RFP for the A&E service for the boiler will be going out and going out by the end of the week and hopefully posting at the end of the week, if not at the beginning of next week. Facility updates for just general maintenance include stadium lights and sprinkler system repairs. Weather Shield has came out to repair several of our roofs while we still have more roof repair that we anticipate. And we had a transformer that had been updated at the back of the high school with an upgrade to our service. The playground at DEC has been inspected and repaired, and we are also going to have repair to our drainage system at the high school here starting September 18th. And it's going to be removing a large system of roots that have gone into our drainage system. In regards to technology, Promethean boards have been installed across the district. Many of them are wall mounted, some of them are mobile to allow for adaptability within the classroom. We have had our first level layer of training for those boards, and more is to be coming. Vector Network project has completed its first phase for Wi-Fi access within the district, and we are going to be continuing our second phase this fall. We are working on a consolidated help desk project to help with the transparency of all of the help desk items that are coming in, both for facilities and for technology. And the digitized facility use form should be completed by the next board meeting. Athletics, I just want to point out that we did honor Bob Kesterkey for 50 years of field management for Philstrip Field. For football, the Tigers lost a tough game last week to Muskegon Catholic. This week, the Tigers take on Buchanan at home at 7 p.m. on Friday. The team is currently 1-2 for the season. Our volleyball did not have enough turnout to be able to field a varsity team, so we are currently putting together a schedule to field a JV team. Middle school football has their first home game on the 20th at 4 p.m. and the middle school volleyball has their first game at Watervliet on the 25th at 4. Just highlighting some family engagement across the district. At DEC, we have a back to school ad at wonderful DEC on the 19th. There is a PTO meeting at MLK tomorrow evening. On Thursday, there's an ice cream social with the staff and community at Fairplain East. At the middle school, tomorrow, there's a back to school mixer. On Friday, at the football game, it is a dad's night. And there's also going to be a donation to the marching band from McDonald's. On the 20th, we have Pie the Staff Day at Benton Harbor High School. And at Cape, on Friday, they have a reading and is fun activity. Today was the 10-day count. So I'm giving you updated numbers from our registrar. So right now at DEC, there are 84 students. At MLK, there are 231. At Fairplain East, there are 168. Fairplain Middle, 240. Benton Harbor High School, 506. And Cape are currently at 39, which puts us at a district total of 1268. I will emphasize that these numbers are going to fluctuate sometimes quite dramatically from day to day as enrollment continues to fluctuate around the county. We do have count day that is in October, but wanted to bring you up to date with where we are at with the 10-day count.
I'm gonna let Dr. Buss expound because he knows me very well. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. As we do know historically, typically as the temperature gets colder, our enrollments go up. So one of the things we talked about in our partnership agreement, meetings today was what Ms. Chapman brought up about the Detroit area. One of the things we do know, there's a lot of transition moving during the summer months. During this time of the year, especially single parent homes, that one parent is trying to make sure they get their home settled. Typically the older sibling has to stay home and take care of the younger siblings. By the time the colder months set in, things have been settled at home, the older sibling and the younger siblings are then allowed to be able to come to school during that time. So we are looking forward to fluctuation. One of the things we've also seen is a large fluctuation of our immigrant population increase. So what you've been seeing on the news that is happening in other states where the Texas governor and other states bordering Mexico that are sending their buses of immigrants over, we've started to see the influx in our school and it's having an impact. We have now 25 students that are from out of the country that have entered our school system, and we are actively working to make sure that we have the services that they need. The ones that have entered the school district have zero English proficiency. So we are working diligently to make sure we meet their needs as well. So just want to emphasize that these numbers are fluctuating and that it's for the first 10 day. And after these notices go out, we have noticed in the past that the enrollment will continue to rise.
So
You have the floor.
I guess my question is you know, 1 year, and this is not a reflector because we currently do not have a superintendent, we have an interim still. One of my issues is it's not a plan for growth. We have not done any recruitment or anything. And I think that's something that we need to focus on. That's just on the student count number.
Thank you, Vice President Barnes. I'm marinating and I'm kind of confused and puzzled and trying to find the best way to say this, but if I'm not mistaken, I was given a number of like close to 1,500
Yeah.
within a week. So that's, I guess I'm not understanding the difference between, was that HR committee, the difference between that number and this number? You have the floor.
So what happened is from last year and the new enrollees that we have, until we go through the official count, that the students stay on the roster. After 10 days, those students are dropped off our roster and have to re-enroll per Michigan law. So they will be sent letters that they have been withdrawn from the school to give the parents an opportunity to come in to make sure. Some of those students have not shown up as of date. So when they don't show up as of date and are in the seat per Michigan law, we have to drop them from our rosters and then send notice.
Okay, and then I guess I have a follow-up question to that. If a child is removed from a district, then there has to be a transfer of records to the new incoming district.
Mhm.
So wouldn't we already have record of how many students that we have confirmed are not returning?
We do. And I don't have that available tonight,
Okay.
but we do keep a record of those that have transferred, but it has not been over 200 that have transferred out.
Right, and that was, I guess, my question. Do we have documentation that that 200 students have moved or transferred records or, okay.
We do not.
So we're gonna have to wait for count day to get, okay.
Yeah.
So I would like to make a notation for the media that may be watching that this particular number is not set in stone.
No.
And we will know officially on count day as other districts do. We'll look up and have a headline. All right, any other questions from the board? Treasurer Creighton?
I guess my first thing is that, do we receive this report? Cause I can't find it. So is that something that we can receive? And then also, is he done? Are you done?
Yeah, this is
Oh,
the open
okay.
comment.
So, thank you. So, I guess this is just a suggestion. I remember, as an educator, when we were working on that 10-day count, one of the things that we did was as teachers and as administrators, we will have teachers, family coaches, family engagement people actually just make contact with the students they have not seen, and you can get some soft, useful data there to just say, hey, Miss Creighton, we noticed that we haven't seen, Johnny at school, is he coming? Is he okay? Has he enrolled somewhere else? That's just kind of like a quick rule of thumb to get some preliminary information. But then also, I just want to kind of reinforce the fact that we did ask in February, March for an audit of HR so that we can actually make sure that we can sustain this budget. At least while I'm on the board, I want to make sure that we stay in the green, that we don't have a deficit and that we can sustain the amount of staff that we have. And so as we are continuing to hire more people, seeing that the school enrollments are down 50 to 100, I kind of paused with even going into contract with even more people before count day and actually knowing we do have students in classes with like 10 or 12 students, 15 students. And so a full class load at this time is how many? The 24 or 32 per contract. So actually going into contract and continuing to hire people, we did offer some grace during the HR audit period, but I'm very uncomfortable, honestly, as a treasurer, looking at these numbers and knowing that we're still looking to hire 10, 15 people per meeting, but no one is recruiting and retaining students.
Very valid point, Treasurer Creighton, and your timing was perfect. So I'm gonna ask that the Chief of Student Support Services, if Trustee Bowens would so kindly oblige me, if you all could work collaboratively. I don't know if we need a recruitment and retention committee. I know we have 1,000 committees and not enough time. But Trustee Bowens, I'm naming you because I know you're extremely creative when it comes to getting out in the community and making connections within the individuals. So if you guys could maybe coordinate, if you have some suggestions, Trustee Bowens, however that would look like. It's you, Mr. Corson, that's been given the assignment. You really have the power to choose which board member you'd like to work with, if any. It's your challenge. You choose your team.
Sounds
And you
good.
can answer that off the record.
Thank you.
And Madam President,
You have the
can
floor.
I just be clear? So
Yes.
for me, I definitely would love for us to recruit, but for financial purposes, keeping in mind that after our first count day, we won't receive students. And so we need to aggressively, we don't need another committee. I mean, that's my opinion. I told you,
no, I'm not
I'll be
making
the
one.
president. I'm just saying, I think, they need to move expeditiously, or there will be a massive layoff, or at least a recommendation, because there's no way to sustain, and we're down another 200 kids. In the budget that we proposed, it was with the projection of over 1,500. So again, this budget does not reflect 1,268 kids. It reflects 1,500 or more. And so I just want to continue to stress, that's what I'm saying. Thank
No,
you.
I hear you loud and clear.
I want them to let the record show.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. And I would like to also say for the record that we are not indicating that we are planning massive layoffs.
No.
Treasurer Creighton is saying that she does not want us to get to that place in our budget where we're doing that to ensure that we're fiscally responsible, because we're doing quite well in the budget right now and we want to keep it that way. Like to
Correct.
clarify for the people that are listening.
Thank you. I
Right
apologize for
stories.
my
Two
passion.
things.
Trustee Raquel
The
Partner.
1,500 students that we had last year, did that also show the kids that are graduate, were they included in that number, our graduating population? So we would have had to subtract them for this year, right?
He said yes,
Okay.
but then on the opposite side of that as well, you should have a new entering class of students that are coming
Right,
into deck, so it kind of averages itself out.
The other thing I would like to, for our district, to start looking at that a new population of students that are coming into our district. We can also begin to grow our district with the other population of students that we have in our district. I can remember as a principal, I had a Hispanic interpreter who would service my Hispanic children. And because that I had that interpreter, I had a number of families that moved into the area, they came to our school because they could get the kind of services and help that they needed. The same thing as sort of school. And so with that happening, it would behoove us to position our district in such a way that we can accommodate those students so they don't have to go to Berrien Springs, so they don't have to go to Eau Claire, so they don't have to go to the surrounding school districts. And we can offer those same services here. As sort of, I know they had a class that taught the parents English. in the evenings. And they were able to fund it, I think through Title I or some of the funds, 31A or something, that taught the parents English. And because of that, parents would send their kids there because they wanted those services for their kids. So that is a great way that we can start growing our population of students for Benton Harbor area schools. The other thing, the housing in Benton Harbor is not the best. And so because of that, a lot of people get the Section 8 vouchers, but they have no place to live. So they go to Waterville, they go to, you can take your voucher and go whatever. And that causes us to lose students too. But we're working, she knows. But yeah, but if we would look at that alternative for our alternative population of students that are now influxing our school district, we can hit high targets with student population.
Thank you for your positivity, trustee Raquel Martin. Trustee Gavin.
Thank you, Chair Robinson. Thank you, Mr. Corson, for the report. I guess, when it comes to recruitment and attracting families, I'm always reminded that the best way to attract folks is to treat them right when you have them. And so that brings me right back to, all of the things that we've been fighting for, which is getting on top of these boilers. That's important to families, getting the track fixed. So I'm wondering, where are we in terms of getting the track fixed? We have students who have scholarships. Is the track, was the track usable, or are we on target for that? I'm just going to ask all the questions so that way I don't lose my time. And then also the girls' bathroom, are the doors fixed in the girls' bathroom? No, right. So things like that, that's how you recruit folks, by treating them right when you have them. We had an international academy for students who speak English as a second language. And so we may want to look into actually hiring teachers who speak a second language so that we can properly service those students all day. And then there's a peer mediation program that I would love to get some updates on, because that's our students as the solution to the violence problem that we have, which also deters families. So if we are able to put those types of programs in place, and then also athletics for elementary, do we have that in place for our elementary students? So those are the types of things that will attract students and parents. Yeah.
Dr. Butts had a response.
Yep.
For the track that you mentioned, on my list of things to do in the office for November, we will start our RFPs for the track and for the for the basketball floor at the high school and the middle school that we have in our budget. So those RFPs will be going out so that we can make sure that they're out in time enough to be done during the summer months. And we can actually plan summer school to move those kids out of those buildings that we talked about earlier in the year. For our influx of non-English speaking students, we are seeking to hire paras now to cover that gap and move up towards teachers as we gain the FTEs for those. For the girls' restroom and boys' restroom, two issues: water and the locks. I spoke with one of the head custodian the other day in reference to the locks as to the ones that should be bought and put on the doors, and approve those, the latches to be put on those doors. So they should be being installed. They should be fully installed by next week. As far as the water in two of the restrooms, we are waiting strategically to DPPD day one. We did call Egan out to check those out. Those just drew a blank. Those
Water valves.
the valves, thank you. Water valves are frozen. What I don't want to do is try to get them to force them open, the valves, you turn it on.
Frozen?
Well, they're stuck, they're frozen,
Okay.
they're stuck, so they're frozen stuck. I don't want to break them and flood the school while the students are here, so we're gonna do them on the DPPD day while only staff is here. So that way we can easily move staff to another building while they do the repairs. Elementary athletics. I have been speaking with some external partners to try to figure out the rec situation here, rec department situation. We don't have one here. So we're working with an outside entity trying to figure out how to partner with the school district to create a feeder program. So that is in the works. Just been discussion right now, has not come to the facilities committee, just trying to put together a proposal to bring so that we can, we bring it decent and in order.
Madam President,
You have the floor.
thank you. I just want to, it just came to me. We have this great student support report that I would love to have a copy of in the near future moving forward. But I just realized that we have a gap because we have a facilities board committee, but then he is actually reporting on the entire department. So I'm just wondering from a board perspective, do we have our committee misnamed or is it not appropriate to actually, like, should it be aligned with the actual department?
So I think that because he's a particular chief that manages student support and facilities, I think it's fine because his facilities falls under student support services. Now, if we choose, I'm not opposed to renaming the facilities committee student support services, and then that way he can give you all the updates. Those updates as well, because those updates are not being given to any particular committee. We get them as a whole.
Correct. I think, I don't know what that might look like, but I think that's a good observation because right now, had we known this or had it been reported to a committee, then we could have had this discussion. I know that one thing that we're trying to do is to minimize the discussion at the table. And so if this can be something that we can do in the near future, I think it might help minimize the discussion. I also wanted to give that team a shout out for this beautiful clock that I didn't recognize it at first.
Yeah.
But I love it. I feel like, I'm in a courtroom or I don't know where, like a debate or something. So thank you so much for the nice clock.
Thank you.
President Robinson.
You have the floor.
The student support services, a lot of times we get those updates we haven't met in a while. But in our curriculum and instruction committee is where we were getting some of those type of
Well,
updates, not facilities. but
we were
the-
getting those. Go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, we were getting those student support services. And then also, I may have missed it, and if I did, I really do apologize, not being facetious at all. The peer mediation, was there a response to my question about the peer mediation program?
I'm sorry, I did not. Hold on, let me let Madam
You have the
President.
floor.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I'm sorry, I did not speak to that. Yes, ma'am, we are working on that. And what I want to do before we get to that part of the peer mediation, when we worked through our policy committee, and again, I sent you that email. My apologies. Kind of neglected my own child with school stuff, but got it straight. I want to bring that through policy too. To look at that with that peer mediation, because when we start doing the student selection, will that braid in too? So I want to just have a little discussion with that prior to moving on Monday, if you would.
Thank you.
Madam President, so as a follow-up, is
You have
there,
the floor.
is that just something that you are going to consider and get back, or is that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate
That's actually perfect segue to something that I was gonna mention under new business, but
No, we can wait. I'm fine with that.
yeah,
Thank you.
I'll come back to that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, so we are, thank you, Paul, for your update provided. And it would be helpful. I know a lot of times you guys might just, like, I think it was displayed on there, but it wasn't linked. So if there's something that that isn't confidential, that the board is gonna have access to, like these nifty goal plans or your updates, you want to make sure that we get that it's linked to the agenda so we can see it. And then it also is helpful to the public. So they're not just sitting and listening to us talk more than what they do standard. They have something visual. So we're gonna proceed to the Tri-County Head Start lease staff report SS1. And then following that will be food service, and then first student transportation contract renewal. And then we will take a brief recess just to give ourselves a quick break and we'll proceed.
Madam President,
We should be out of here pretty quickly. Yes.
quick question. So we did, this has been the SSS 1 through 3 have all been on the agenda before and we tabled them. I'm just wondering, and we had a little discussion at the beginning of the meeting. Dr. Butts has made the noted, negotiations. He's negotiated and has brought that before the finance committee with the concerns that the finance committee had. Just wondering, do I need to make a motion to amend the agenda to do a consent? Or can I actually make a motion including all three and move forward?
You can make the motion to include all three. Just as long as the board, if there's no objection from the board in doing those three as a consent agenda, I don't want anybody to be impacted in the way that they vote, but I have no objections to those three being combined. Just ensuring that the full board is aware that their vote being placed is for SSS1, SSS2, and SSS3 regarding Tri-County Head Start lease, food service contract renewal, and first student transportation contract renewal.
So moved.
Support.
The motion has been made by Treasurer Creighton and supported by Vice President Bowens. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding either lease or contract renewal?
I would say, I would like for Dr. Bus to just give us a very high level update with the great negotiation, things that he, has managed to get them to agree on.
You have the floor, Dr. Butts.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Treasurer Creighton, for Tri-County Head Start, and first student, transportation. Tri-County Head Start, we were able to negotiate a 10% increase due to inflation, which they agreed to. With the food service contract renewal, it's just a 1-year continuation because as of next year, we will be RFPing those services out. We have made some changes in management and some of the staffing with the food service to ensure that we increase our services that we're offering our students. Made that very an important notice for our students to get the nutrition that they need and foods that they like on the menus. With the first student transportation contract, we are at a static 4%. So if we got 1,000 new students, our price would not increase, or if we drop down to 1 student, our price would not increase or decrease, because they increase as we lose students and they increase as we gain students. And I was able to have a static price for the next 3 years. Also in those negotiations, I don't know whether it was reported in the past, but we did negotiate that for the barn that they use, they do pay an annual fee of $150,000 per year, plus an additional $12,000 for any additional uses that they use at the barn. If they have any other things that they need to use the barn for, we've negotiated that it's a flat $12,000 per year, and it's to increase on a yearly basis as well, along with inflation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Butts. I definitely appreciate it. And these are the great things that we can continue to do when we work together and put all of our minds and resources together. So I'm very appreciative that these are all revenue generating opportunities for our district and our finance team.
All right, I believe Trustee Gavin had a question.
Thank you, President Robinson. Thank you, Dr. Butts, on negotiating these terms. I have a question about the food service offerings, and I do although I don't know the details of the change in management, I do hear, the students' responses to the lunch, and I know that, having a bad lunch is like a running joke on television and everything. But one thing we're excited about as adults is lunchtime and being able to get the type of food that we like and enjoy. That's a recruiting tool, right? And I've seen a lot of opportunities now with lunch services that help teach the kids how to cook and, use really fresh products, and it's really tasty food. And I guess what I'm wondering is, do we have anything in place to get feedback from the students and then use that feedback to inform the food that they are receiving? And if not, is that something that we can seriously put in place so that they can enjoy their lunchtime as well? We're going to spend the money anyway. Why not make sure that it's an enjoyable, experience for them, just like we want our lunch to taste good, during lunchtime.
Madam President.
So I will defer the floor to Dr. Bus and then Treasurer Craig.
Thank you, Madam President. And yes, ma'am, Trustee Gavin, we, at this point, we do not have a survey put out, but at being a building principal here, I did speak to the students a lot. So I was able to speak to the general manager about their program, and that it was, and I was very frank that it was unacceptable, some of the foods that they were serving, and was ensured that we would see a better quality food that was being served. I did remind him that they are up for RFP next year, and if they plan to be in the competition, then we needed to see some better results this year and immediate. So some immediate changes have been made, because again, I was in the building with the students and I heard their concerns and complaints. I wasn't in all the buildings, but I'm certain with their siblings, I mean, they come from the same family, so I'm sure the concern was a consensus. What we can do, though, is develop a survey as we move forward before we do the RFPs for the food service to see what our students like. I do know on the conferences that I've been to, most of the food services come out now and they survey the district, they survey the area and see what the likes are of the students prior to them putting in the RFPs. And we can put that in the RFP, almost like a taste testing. Like when you get in there, you go to different caterers and they taste the food. So we can put that in the RFP as one of those things that we're looking for.
Thank you so much for that consideration.
Treasurer Craig.
Yep, thank you. It reminded me of a couple things. We did approve them to get some updated equipment. And then also, last month when we talked about this, we also mentioned that they could, as a student government body, develop an advisory committee to help with that, because we do have $100,000 or so left that they can determine how they can use it moving forward that we have to spend. And so that might be something for Paul, student government, any administrators in the audience or listening online, to develop an advisory committee, which is what some districts do, to help kind of select food choices. It wouldn't necessarily be something that we do at the board. We approve the vendors and then they can move forward. And so we've talked about that already. That might just be kind of something out there. I don't want to elongate the meeting with a big discussion about that. I just wanted to mention that an advisory committee would be appropriate to meet and then make a recommendation to the finance committee so that we can know, because we do have monies to actually finance it.
Thank you. Chief Corson.
The only layer that I was going to add specifically to Trustee Gavin's comment was that the change in district leadership is that we do have a temporary director of food service currently. As the previous director is no longer with us, we are making sure that the new director that they put is able to be a very good fit for this district and for the expectations that we have for our food service. So that was part of the conversation and negotiations with the regional vice president that we had. So it is very much in the same vein as what you are talking about. And I believe we did have a better system in previous times in which we were able to actually meet the desires of our community better. And so we're working to get back to that and maybe hopefully be able to exceed that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Liz, can you please call the votes for staff reports SS1, SS2, and SS3, which SSS3, my apologies, guys, which we're doing as a consent agenda?
President Robinson?
Yes.
Trustee Boone?
Yes.
Trustee Green?
Yes.
Trustee Gavin?
Yes.
Trustee Rocket Martin?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so thank you, Chief Corson, for providing your student support services updates today. Next on the agenda is teaching and learning. I'd like to know whether the board would like a brief recess or do we want to keep going? Are we needing a recess? Okay, so if there's no objections, we'll take a brief recess. It's 7:56. Please return to the table by 8:05 at the latest. All right, so we are returning officially from recess at 8:06 p.m. We are at teaching and learning on our agenda. Dr. Kroll, if you could please proceed with the CCE course approval, staff report T1.
Thank you very much. Submitting for board consideration, the Board of Education shall approve all curriculum used as part of the educational program of this district. Facts and analysis. Each year, the Michigan Merit Curriculum Board must approve CTE classes that are offered at each school. Policy reference 2210 curriculum development, 2220 adoption of courses of study, 2421 career and technical education, 5460 graduation requirements CTE. Strategic plan goal reference. The mission of Benton Harbor area schools is to educate, guide, and inspire students by developing their skills and knowledge to be globally competitive. Recommended action that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the recommendation for the Michigan Merit Curriculum credit being exchanged, replaced with a state-approved CTE class credit for each program at the grade level where credit is offered.
All right, is there a motion to approve staff report T1?
I move that we approve staff report T1.
Is there a second or support?
I second the motion.
The motion has been made by trustee Gavin and supported by trustee Rocket Martin. Any questions, comments, or concerns regarding staff report T1?
I have a concern.
You have the floor.
One thing that I just want to be noted and us to be aware of, that this is great, as needed, but just be mindful that, there are still requirements for college and for the, Lord, forgive me, what is it called? The National Clearinghouse, for colleges and scholarships and athletic scholarships. So let's be mindful of that. I just want that to be noted, that this should not be something that all of our students are doing. This is an exception to the rule. So for example, if you have a student that's looking to go to a trade school and they're taking construction, then a math credit for construction might be more realistic for them. But this is not for a student who is going to the University of Michigan or Michigan State, and they're taking construction as a math credit. It won't be recognizable. And so just be mindful of that, that this is not to replace, but it's to support and supplement.
Thank you, Treasurer Creighton. Any additional comments from the
I
board?
guess
You have the floor.
I had a different comment, but I would like some clarity around that. Dr. Kroll, are you able to provide some insight into that? Or did I hear Treasurer Creighton say that if a student uses a construction trade to satisfy a fourth year math credit, that would not be accepted by like a U of M?
So it actually depends on the university, what their specific requirements are for transferring credits or utilizing credits. But for this actual staff report, this is talking about every year we have to approve the adoption of the CTE state approved equivalents for the Michigan Merit Curriculum. So this is just saying that the state approved CTE equivalents for, say, math or social studies, that those actually do meet the requirements as long as we're following the CTE pathways. That if we've got a fourth year math requirement, the CTE courses that offer that fourth year math requirement actually meet the standards that are necessary for that requirement. Now, whether or not a specific university is going to accept that credit as meeting their standards, it depends on the different universities. But for the purposes of the staff report, it's just saying that we do meet the requirements.
Right. I support the staff report. I'm just making sure that I guess in our process, we need to make sure that our guidance counselors are aware of that and communicating that with our students that are college bound, you know, before they make those types of decisions.
Madam
I think that's
President,
very important that Treasurer Creighton brought that up. But my question was 1, 2, 3, 4. Are these the only 4 seats? I mean, they're great, excited, but are these the only 4 CTE programs that we have in total? Or are these just the only ones that satisfy these credits?
So the 4 on this list are the ones that have been approved CTE pathways by Barry and Risa. So we have different CTE offerings in process right now. We're working towards moving them into those appropriate pathways. But because these actually supplement curriculum or offer credits for different aspects of curriculum, they have to go through a very strict vetting process and application process. So we work with Barry and Risa to make sure that we're meeting all of those standards so that when our kids go through these courses, they're walking out with the skills that we say they're walking out with, whether it's the specific trade skills or it's the math, the social studies, the ELA skills that they need to walk out with. So these ones are the approved ones for through Barry and Risa for this year, though we are working towards additional CTE pathways. So you'll probably see in the next year or 2 additional courses showing up because we're working towards adding those to this pathway.
Thank you so much.
Treasurer Creighton, did you have a clarification or you're okay? Okay.
yes, no, I just want to make noted that my objection was not to the staff report. It was more of a point of clarity. Over the summer and during graduation season, I was approached and contacted by parents who kids actually were affected by this. Again, I just think as we have a high turnover of staff and gaps in staff, it's important that we ensure that our staff and our students and our families actually know. So again, if you have a student that's college bound and not looking to go to a tech or trade school, it might benefit them more actually taking a pre-calculus class versus taking construction as a senior math class, because this is one of the things. And so I just wanted it to be noted to the staff and to the curriculum department to ensure that we're not actually removing or actually enrolling them into these classes because we have open availability and giving them waived credits, but that they actually know and that they're well educated on, you're taking this class because this is your track. Again, I know for sure that there were a number of students that this did affect. And so I just want to ensure that this is not a hurdle for our students.
Thank you. Dr. Cole had a response.
So one of the things that we do to ensure that that isn't happening, we are working with the NCAA to ensure that our courses meet their standards, as well as Michigan colleges. We're working diligently with them as well. Also, this fall, Barry and Risa is offering training on the Michigan Merit Curriculum, personal curriculums, and making sure we're meeting those high standards for college-bound students. So we're sending our secondary principals to those trainings, as well as our guidance counselors to make sure that they have all of the information to help students make the best choices that fit their career and college goals.
Perfect. Thank you. If there's no other comments or questions, we'll proceed. Liz, if you could please call the vote for staff report T1. Yes.
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 All right, awesome. Next, we have staff report T2. Dr. Kroll.
Thank you. So this is for the field trip to the University of Notre Dame. The reason for board approval, the board shall approve field trips and other district-sponsored trips which are planned to keep students out of the district overnight or longer or out of the state. Facts and analysis. The Benton Harbor High School CTE program is requesting permission to take several high school students to Notre Dame University. Students will engage in a walking trip at Notre Dame University. While in attendance, students will be led through several stations, including a current building project, informational presentation related to construction career field, as well as the Michiana Area Construction Industry Advancement Fund and the St. Joseph Valley Building Trades. They will be on hand to elaborate on opportunities in the field. The objective of the trip is to expose students in the construction pathway to career opportunities in our economic area, give a tour experience with a real construction project, as well as share information related to trade school and advanced education opportunities in the field of construction and other related fields. The source of funds for this trip will come out of the CTE Building Fund. Policy reference, policy 2340, field and other district-sponsored trips. Strategic plan reference, learning environment, Benton Harbor area schools will develop, maintain, and implement with fidelity a multi-tiered system of support that enhances the culture and learning environment. Recommended action, that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the field trip to the University of Notre Dame for the CTE students as presented.
Is there a motion to approve staff report T2?
So moved. Support.
The motion has been made by Treasurer Creighton and supported by Vice President Bowens. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding staff report T2?
Quick comment.
You have the floor.
I haven't been able to really intimately review this, but I love that we're moving in the right direction as far as the presentation. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, Liz, can you please call the vote? Yes.
Yes.
Treasurer Creighton,
Yes.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Trustee Gavin.
Yes.
All right. And thank you so much for providing the teaching and learning updates, Dr. Crow. You are appreciated. Next on the agenda, we have human resources, and we are going to have Mr. McDermott provide those updates. He's going to begin with staff report H1 regarding separations of employment.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Separation of employment, staff report H1. Reason for board consideration, a list of employees whose employment relationship with the district is or will be separated is submitted to the board each month. Facts and analysis, it is recommended that the Board of Education votes to accept the separation of employment of the following staff. Policy reference 3140, 4140, resignation of professional and support staff. Strategic plan goal reference, personnel leadership. Benton Harbor area schools will recruit, hire, develop, and retain the best staff to improve student outcomes.
Is there? Okay, go ahead. Were you still speaking?
Yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get this.
Recommended action.
You can
We can move forward, recommended action. Benton Harbor Schools Board of Education vote to accept the separation of employment of the aforementioned staff.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve staff report H1?
So moved.
Is there a second or support?
Support.
The motion has been made by Treasurer Creighton and supported by Trustee Raquel Martin. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I do have a couple questions. We have someone on here that was just hired and then, yeah, so, no, thank you. That's okay.
All right. If there's no questions or comments, I'll ask.
Ms. Gavin.
I do.
You have the floor.
Just a quick question, just wondering for the date of hire for the MTSS, that position was just created, right? And so did we, unless I'm reading it wrong, or unless maybe I'm missing something, I thought we just approved that position. And then it says like their date of hire was 2019. Is there so they just took that position within a couple months? Is that correct?
I can provide some feedback. So the previous position was restorative justice specialist. Once the board approved, those individuals were transitioned to that position. So the employees' hire date reflects when they were hired into the district, not when they were hired in or reassigned to that position.
Were they hired as restorative justice specialists in 2019 and serving in that position for 4 years?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes. I'm sorry. I can't speak on what happened within the 4 years. But their most recent position was a restorative justice specialist.
Madam President.
I guess I'm still confused. So they were only in this position for maybe a month or two and then they're resigning.
Yes.
Okay.
Treasurer Creighton.
Yes, actually, I think it's some misinformation. We did not approve a position at DEC for MTSS. We approved two positions. One at Fairplain Middle and one at the high school. So I'm not sure, when a position was created for MTSS specialist at DEC. And actually, we did see that posted and we had some questions about that. So if someone can provide some clarity, in the initial motion that was made last month, I specifically asked how many positions we were creating and the answer was two.
And that is correct. So when we create Mag, I just want to,
Yes, I'm
Okay.
smiling because I know my board so well and I've already asked you all these questions, but you have
Okay.
the floor.
so yes, the board, I can't remember I think it was the last board meeting, approved two positions. MTSS specialist and
Special,
communications specialist. So we approved two positions, but that is not limited to how many vacancies we can have for that position.
that is incorrect information. Look at the policy. We created to create two new positions.
So, Ms. Creighton in the meeting where we created the position, she specifically asked how many positions were we creating in taking that vote? And we were told in your absence, this is a meeting that you were not present, two. And so that's why you received a follow-up email from me attempting to clarify if only two positions were created, where did these other individuals come from? And I don't remember if I received a response or clarification on that. So what I will suggest, we have a meeting September 20th. I need for you to go through your staff directory or your positions that you all are attempting to have MTSS specialists for, and ensure that we have the correct number, because we've created the job in itself, but there was clarification that was sought to ask how many actual positions were we creating, and we were told two.
Madam President, as a follow-up, just to support and let Marvin give him some context. In the past, one of the things that we noticed that got us into financial trouble is that every time we got a new grant, every time we had a new admin, they would call the position something else. And then when we asked for the HR audit at the beginning of the year, we were trying to get it handled because all of these things actually cost money, right? And so we'll notice that, things slide through the cracks, and then before we know it, our budget is inflated, which at least under my watch as the treasurer, I don't want it to happen. I'm not gonna say it's not gonna happen, but I don't want it to happen.
It won't.
And so what we want to do is to make sure that you guys actually know what you have versus what you need. Because what happens is we have ghost people on payroll that really don't have a job, right? They don't have job duties because you replace the MTSS and you hire all of these people. And then what has happened in the past, we had restorative justice specialists, then we might have MTSS, then we had a family coach, we had a family liaison, we had communications, we had all of these different people. And so what we would like, I think when we call for that audit, is to actually say, okay, what are you calling security, right? What are you calling your student support service people? What are you calling your family engagement people? And actually have that on the organizational chart with the positions, and we do have one that can be revised, but it was passed out early in the year. If you want me to send that back, it was presented actually last year in our HR committee when I was on the committee, and it was a complete list of all of those positions. And then you might not have that information, but I'll make sure that I send this to Dr. Butts, and then he can pass it out as he see fit. But that's it. That's all we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that we don't get loopholed and then we end up trying to support you guys as much as we can, but our ultimate goal is to be fiscally responsible here. Those are our three things: governance, oversight, and the big A, which is accountability. And so, this is nothing or no personal attack. Let's just make sure that we're being accountable and actually, put that back on the administrators and the chief of student support services to actually look at the model along with all of our other support chiefs and figure out, okay, what is it that we need? What is it that we want? So that we can make sure that we have our books crystal clear and transparent.
And to provide clarification, the resolution that we voted on did not necessarily specify two positions, but there was a question of clarification that was asked. And so that question may have impacted the way the votes went. So you just want to make sure that we know exactly how many positions there are. But then I'll go to trustee Raquel Martin.
And I was under the impression that these positions were the restorative justice positions renamed prior because of a meeting that Dr. Butts had with the partnership team, so that these positions would meet the guidelines for specific funding so that we could support these people, right? So renaming came about through with the help of Dr. Butts and our partnership team.
That is correct.
Okay.
So the reason you saw
They didn't-
the two names that were presented, because those were the two new individuals hired into those positions.
Right, but I saw all four positions on our packet. We had all four positions before us in our packet, but we only voted for those two because they were what?
New hires to the
New
district.
hires. Okay.
Just to further clarify, in the conversation that we had in the last meeting, we never terminated the restorative justice position. So even though this is essentially a renaming, there's also some change in job descriptions. So you've changed the name, you've changed the description, you've changed what their purpose is. It's essentially a new job. We did not get rid of restorative justice because we might find that we have a need for that. So it was creation of a new position, but as it relates to why we created it, you're spot on. And then if there's no other questions regarding staff report H1, I'd like for Liz to actually call the vote for the resignations as noted.
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowens,
Yes.
Treasurer Creighton,
No.
trustee Raquel Martin,
Yes.
trustee Gavin.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Next, we have staff report H2, Marvin.
Yes, submitting for board consideration to approve the employment of staff in accordance with the revised school code and other general laws of Michigan. Facts and analysis, it is recommended that the board approve the superintendent's recommendation for the hire of the following personnel. Policy reference 3120 and 4120, employment of professional and support staff. Strategic plan goal reference, personnel leadership. Benton Harbor Area Schools will recruit, hire, develop, and retain the best staff to improve student outcomes. Recommended action that Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the employment of the aforementioned staff.
Is there a motion to approve staff report H2?
So moved.
Is there a second or support?
Support.
All right, the motion has been made by trustee Raquel Martin and supported by trustee Gavin. I am going to, Marvin, I know we discussed the resumes in our HR committee meeting, but I did want the name at minimum kept on. I may be overlooking where it's noted, but we just have a lot of people's experience and don't necessarily know who it's for. So I think it was Raquel Martin said you might be able to read that and number it or something like that. But I just really wanted you to remove the address and contact information and things like that. But we would want to try it with the name so we know who matches to what. Okay. Is there I think you all already gave me a support, correct? Okay. Questions, comments, concerns regarding staff report H2? And you all will notice H2 and H3 would normally be one consent agenda, but because the individuals noted on H3 are for outside districts, we separated them so that everyone will have an opportunity to vote in a manner that fits their I don't know what the correct term is. So everyone will have an ability to vote for the Benton Harbor area school staff and not be convicted by the alternative vote that is needed. So if there's no additional questions or comments, trustee Gavin.
I just want to say that I'm always excited about us recruiting new staff. I'm very excited to have guidance counselors. I definitely recognize Mrs. Wright's name and so happy to have her here. I think if this is who I think it is, I think she's going to be a major asset to our young folks. Glad to have some folks who are going to be teaching science and chemistry and possibly someone who speaks another language. I think that this is a really great roster of people, and I just, would love to see us have something in place to attach them to mentors as quickly as possible so that they can have a support system and they'll stay on board with us. So yep, just super excited. Thank you for doing the work and recruiting folks to come back.
Thank you, trustee Gavin. Any other questions regarding staff report H2? All right, hearing none. Liz, can you please call the vote? Yes.
Abstain.
Abstain, conflict of interest. Abstain, conflict of interest.
Trustee Gavin?
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, next we have staff report H3. H3, you have the floor.
Submitting for board consideration to approve the employment of staff in accordance with the revised school code and other general laws of Michigan. Facts and analysis, it is recommended that the board approve the superintendent's recommendation for the hiring of, the following personnel. Policy reference 3120, 4120, employment of professional and support staff. Strategic plan goal reference, personnel leadership. Benton Harbor Area Schools will recruit, hire, develop, and retain the best staff to improve student outcomes. Recommended action that Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the employment of the aforementioned staff.
All right, is there a motion to approve staff report H3?
So moved.
Is there a second or support?
Support.
The motion has been made by trustee Rocket Martin and supported by Vice President Bowens. Questions, comments, or concerns? You have the floor.
Yes, that was me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have a concern about this strategic plan goal reference that Ben Harbor Area Schools will recruit, hire, develop, and retain the best staff to improve student outcomes. Us recruiting, hiring, and getting staff for another school district, a private school. I would love to understand how that improves our student outcomes. That doesn't make sense to me, that we are even charged with that responsibility. And the other thing is, I guess what I would love to see is, what is the actual law? I know that maybe we're required to help finance certain things for schools, for students that live in our district that don't go to our school. I guess I would like to get more information in terms of what's the exact law that says that we are responsible for hiring staff for a private school.
So Dr.
So,
Crowe, can you add
yeah.
that to the curriculum agenda? All right, and Dr.
Thank
Bus,
you.
I believe you had a
So that's why
a
I would
response.
object to this.
No, I understand.
Yes, ma'am, Madam President, we're the fiduciary for those funds. Those Title I funds come through this district for those smaller schools. For those parochial schools, so those funds come through us. And so we actually receive the funds and pay their staff out of those funds. So we're the fiduciary of those. We are the keeper, the holder of the funds to pay their staff. We do have due diligence duties that we go over to ensure that those students are receiving the funds that we allocate to them. That we make sure that the teachers are there, that the material is there. They have a law to keep up with those because it's title funded. So they have so many years to keep up with those records that they hold. So we are the fiduciary. So we have to approve the hiring of and the spending of the funds for their schools.
Thank you. I'm just hoping that, maybe when we have a committee meeting, we'll get better information because those schools have people. And I don't understand why we are overextending our people for private schools. This is a public school.
President Robinson,
You have the floor.
So I just wanted to add for trustee Gavin. When we get these names or presented for these other locations, they have already done the work, meaning they have recruited. It's because of our students being in their district and their school that they are now they will now have to be employed through the district to service those students. But regarding the recruitment aspect, just as you mentioned for the strategic goal plan, our resources from our human resources department are not used for recruiting for those districts. Those districts provide us the individuals. We just ensure they meet the qualifications and then we present them for hire. Just wanted to add that information.
It's a little misleading on the strategic plan goal reference.
Understood. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, Liz, can you please call the vote for staff report H3?
Kratz,
Yes.
Owens,
Yes.
Creighton,
Yes.
trustee Rocket Martin,
Yes.
trustee Gavin,
No.
All right, so next we have old business. Just want to remind you all that we do have a meeting, a special meeting that is next week, Wednesday. We have a employee matter to address that may potentially require a closed session, which we've discussed before. But I'll send out a reminder just to ensure everyone is aware. And then we'll have business as it relates to our superintendent. You all know that there's always other things that come up that may need to be on the agenda, but I am going to do my absolute best in minimizing it because I would like for us to be able to be out of here within an hour or so if there's only a couple items of business. And then,
President Robinson.
yes.
So normally,
September 20th.
normally Liz will send out kind of a survey or poll of what day and time works best for us, and I'm usually very responsive. That day and time does not work for me, but if we can push that time out maybe to 7, I could make that if the board would be willing to. I'll be out of town, but I can be back in town by that time, on that day.
Okay, let me marinate on that because right now I'm sorry, we would not be able to do that because there's a certain individual that had to be provided notice of their opportunity to attend the closed session. And the date and time of the meeting was provided on that notice that they were given.
So is that part at 5:30?
It's only 2 items of business potentially on the meeting, so we would have to, I'll look into that further, but I'm pretty sure we're stuck in the time, the date and time, because we've already sent that information.
Okay, so it's a possibility that, well, I guess what I want to know is, would the board approve if that person is okay with the time change? Will the board or will you approve? Because we didn't.
I don't know whether, so what I have to do, I don't know whether or not legally, because we're required to give an individual 14-day notice.
Mhm.
I don't know whether or not we can now come back a week before and say we're changing the time, but I can check into that. I'm kind of 95% certain that we'll probably keep it at 5:30.
Can they have their closed session and then we have the rest of the meeting?
We
At a
can
later time.
explore what that looks like.
Hmm.
You and I. And you know which situation I'm talking about. Okay. So we'll
The other
discuss that
items on the
further.
agenda, I would like to participate.
You
in
want to
if
be
possible.
present for. Okay. All right, now I'm not sure whether this is considered old business or new business because we've kind of started the conversation a little bit earlier today, but I just wanted to give you guys, we discussed potentially altering slightly the name of the facilities committee, which is not necessarily establishing a new committee, but it's something that we've mentioned at the board table that there's a gap in the student support piece. We do get updates from curriculum, but Mr. Corson is not present in those meetings most often, and he's the one that kind of does that piece of it. So I'll be thinking about that further, but I did want to give you guys a heads up that we will more than likely have some adjustments to the makeup of certain committees. I want to make sure that we are equally able to share the load of work, but that we also have the availability to handle what it is that we've taken on. And so there may be some adjustments that is made slightly I'm not gonna be removing anyone forcibly from a committee or anything like that. But just changing maybe one or two people on committees, maybe three, just to make sure it's a better fit and that we're able to proceed with the order of business. I'm still thinking it out. And I promise I'll have conversations with the individuals that it may potentially impact before any email or announcement comes out. But I just wanted to give you all a heads up that there may be very slight adjustments just for the benefit of the committees as a whole. And that was the only new business that I had. I didn't want the email to come out. And even though I will have had conversations with those impacted to explain the justification for the potential moves, I didn't want others to be caught off guard when the email comes out. But it's nothing super major or any moves made are not a reflection of the lack of ability of anyone that is moved. They may be moving to a committee that I think they may be stronger on. Or they may be removed from a committee because they have limited availability because of the season that they're in their life. So it's just making sure that we are all perfectly matched up for the amount of labor and work and the needs of each of those committees. And that's all I have for new business. I'll try to have those decisions made by the end of the month or probably next week, the next 2 weeks, so that people can step into their new committee roles if there are adjustments made within the month of October. And then now we are open public comment. Is there anyone here for open public comment?
Madam President,
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Mr. Vice President turned to me right before you ended the new business, old business thing.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to make a note that I would like to meet in the very, very, very near future, like this week, so that we can get our revisions or proposed revisions for our superintendent's contract so that we can solidify that and move forward. I want to also
agree.
publicly thank our superintendent, hired elect, I don't know what it's called at this point, for his patience. But I just pray that we can come to a consensus so that we can move forward in this process. And thank you so much
Thank you.
for your patience.
Madam,
You have new business?
yeah, just to piggyback off of Treasurer Creighton,
Okay.
I think right, before we send a letter to the state about debt forgiveness, I think it should be a requirement that we have. It doesn't look right with the interim superintendent. It doesn't create the
Right.
stability.
So I have every intention of us getting this wrapped up at the next meeting that we have.
Thank you.
All right. So next we have open public comment. If there's no one for open public comment, we're gonna proceed to superintendent announcements and comments.
Are you here for open public comment?
You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to say, I thank all the board members that were able to come out at the beginning of the school year. We started out really strong at the high school with the DJ and dancing the students in. We had the drum line at the middle school and we had clap-ins at the elementary school. So thank you for all of your support at the beginning of the school year. And I'd just like to say the school year has started off really smooth and I'm really hoping that we continue the year off with the positive energy that we started with.
Thank you, Dr. Butts. For our comments, we're gonna start with trustee Rocket Martin today.
Yes,
If you could
just-
please speak into your mic.
Yes, ma'am. Just remember to mark November 2nd on your calendars, please. I plan to have my whole board there. I must have my entire board at our at the Berrien County Association meetings. We are planning an event November 2nd at 6:00 p.m. on the campus of Southwestern Michigan College. It is a get together, but it is a time to connect with other board members and superintendents in our area. So I would like for all of us to attend the function. We have a speaker lined up. We have good food, good drink, good stable drink. So when you leave, you should be able to drive appropriately home. So
Communion.
it's not a BOY. Is that BYOB? Well, it's not that. But anyway, yes, so please plan to attend that function.
Thank
And
you,
that's my
trustee Raquel
business for the
Martin.
day.
We're gonna proceed with trustee Gavin.
I want to thank everyone who is on the Zoom watching, and I want to thank everyone who came here and sat through this entire meeting concerned about what's going on in our school district. I believe that our solutions are simple. If we don't bring problems to the solution, if we don't delay the solution, if we do what we're supposed to do when we're supposed to do it. It is when we delay the solution that chaos ensues. And I mean that. I have the utmost respect and admiration for our district staff, and I believe that as leaders, we have a responsibility to get things done and get things done expeditiously. I believe that, you know, the boiler situation is something that we've known about for decades. And it's something that we could have been on top of. And because we weren't, we now will have to spend more money on another Band-Aid. And I think that, you know, we all have a responsibility to get on top of that and to figure out how to get a master facilities plan, whether it takes a whole day workshop or whatever it takes to do right by our kids and our community. We need to set aside that time and get it done with no excuses. And I also want to make a correction that the Fresh Start debt forgiveness, that's not a me thing. That was a community thing. That was a statewide request in support of Benton Harbor area schools. And we have an opportunity and a responsibility to get on top of that several months ago when the opportunity presented itself. And as leaders, it didn't happen. It did not happen. And so my hope and prayer is that this time, when the resolution comes forward, that we will actually do what we're supposed to do, because what the lawyers gave us was a one-page document that we all could have read in a break. And so that's $12 million. $12 million. So there is no conversation about what we should do before we ask for forgiveness on $12 million, because that creates jobs. That creates opportunities for our kids, better infrastructure, and it attracts more staff when we do what we're supposed to do, when we're supposed to do it, and not make any excuses about it. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Gavin. Next up, we're gonna have Treasurer Creighton.
Thank you so much. Good evening again. Just want to do things a little bit differently. I do want to acknowledge, everyone who has been very patient with us, who, has gone an extra mile to do their due diligence to support us, and to stand in the gap. So, I do want to give a few shout outs quickly. I want to thank Molly for her first meeting as CFO. Thank you so much, for our reports. This is the first time we've had financial reports, since October, and so I'm very grateful for that. Under the leadership also of Dr. Butts. It's been a great team, and we have a great finance committee, so I'm really proud of that. Also I would like to thank Mr. Corson, Chief Corson, for coming in and pushing his way through, even though, you know, there are some personal things going on. Please continue to let's pray for him and encourage and uplift him and his family. Also for Dr. Crow for stepping in our absence right now of a leave. So we do appreciate you for jumping right in and doing it with grace and doing it like a professional. So we appreciate you. And also thank you to Marvin for doing the same, helping us as we are transitioning through leadership roles. And so we appreciate you. Also, I noticed a few new tech people in the room. So thank you guys for jumping in. I don't know if they're new hires or if they are filling in, but I do appreciate them as well. We did not miss a beat. We had everything. So we appreciate you. And then lastly, and certainly not least, thank you to Dr. Buss again for stepping in, for filling in and for helping us increase, I would say, our faith, because we just didn't know, and a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. So I'm gonna leave my entire board. I appreciate you guys. We're all so different, but we work together and we fit together like a puzzle. And so it's very unique, and I appreciate it. But I want to leave you with this. When God answers your prayers, He is increasing your faith. When God delays, He is increasing your patience. And when God doesn't answer, He has something better for you. So with that being said, make sure that when we pray, have faith and be patient and trust God. Good evening, and I hope everyone has have a great week. We did experience a great loss in our family over the last week, and so please pray for us and keep my family uplifted in prayer.
Thank you, Treasurer Craig. Next, we have Vice President Bowens.
Thank you, Madam President. This past week, Notre Dame had played Tennessee State University the first time in history. It was a Black school. They got whooped, but it was a Black school on Notre Dame. And the kid that they interviewed on the radio station, he went to Buchanan Public Schools. And he said he was never offered the experience of a Black college tour or go to a Black college until Benton Harbor let him and 3 of his classmates come. So I said, wait a minute, I had to go back and rewind it and listen to it again. He said until Benton Harbor let him go on the Black college tour. He said he was going to go to University of Michigan. He wasn't really thinking about a Black college. And he said it was him and a few kids from Buchanan and South Bend with the Benton Harborans. And he said he got off that bus at TSU and he said this is where he wanted to go. So to see that Benton Harbor made an impact by giving him that opportunity made me feel proud. Now, I wasn't here. I was a Iowan or New Yorkan at that time, but just to see how we had that impact, to see our kids, our cheerleaders at there playing with TSU, and my cousin, who's the national president for them, is uploading them on their Facebook page of the TSU, it made me feel proud. So I just want to say, our kids were showcased and experienced something that they don't get often, and it just made me feel good. I hope we're doing things in decency and order. Some stuff I wasn't impressed on, but I took one for the team and I voted on it. I hope what we are inspecting coming on from the board, that we're holding people accountable. When you look at your resumes, that's all right, never mind. God bless America and God bless Benton Harbor. Good night.
Thank you, Vice President Bowens. So I am going to end and just say that I appreciate this Board of Education and all of our staff, our educators, support staff, everyone that contributes to the overall success of our students. There's been quite a bit said here this evening that the Lord has told me to hold my peace on. So that is going to be all that I am going to comment on at this particular time. I value everyone. I value everyone's efforts. I know that our members of the Board of Education and our committees and our chiefs are doing the best they can. And that is all that I can ask of you. And I look forward to continued greatness and everything that God has in store for our district. So at this particular time, I'm going to ask if there's a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
The motion has been made by Treasurer Creighton and supported by Vice President Bowens. Questions, comments, or concerns?
I have a
Hearing-
question. I'm just kidding.
Hearing none. Liz, you see, I was about to roll that thing through. Liz, can you please call the vote? Yes.
Yes.
I'm so thankful to leave before 9. Yes.
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 This is the first time.
Okay, so the meeting is officially adjourned at 8:54 PM.